Chapter 740. The president looked like he was very shrewd, but he asked a question straight to the point. Since you asked, then I'll say it directly. Bai Lin Luo did not back down. I want the control of this island. From now on, this island will belong to Li. Director Bai, isn't your appetite a little too big? The president crossed his arms in front of him and asked, Isn't it not good? President, it's like this. Bai Lin Luo smiled. You should have seen our current armaments. In addition to us, there is also the Battle Wolves mercenary group. They were all hired by us. Also, our boss destroyed a government army by himself. You should know this kind of combat power. Without us, you and your resistance army will never win against the government army supported by the Philippines. The president looked at Bai Lin Luo a few more times. Although he was a little unconvinced, he had to admit that what Bai Lin Luo said was right. The current situation was just that awkward. The resistance army was so poor that they couldn't get any good equipment at all. But they were good at guerrilla warfare, but it was not painful. Other than giving the government army a headache, they did not have much influence. The president felt that it would not be long before the resistance army ran out of ammunition and food. Cooperate with us. After we get the power, we will give you the authority of the resistance army guards. Bai Lin Luo already started to promise. A good city will always need police. Although you can't be the president, you can be the garrison commander. Only the garrison commander? The president seemed to be hoping for more. It's already very good. You're basically getting it for free. Bai Lin Luo did not have the slightest intention of giving in. If you don't like it, you don't have to participate in our plan. Without your help, although it will take more time, we will still be able to deal with the government army. The reason why they wanted to bring the resistance army natives was Sun Qingshan's suggestion. Bai Lin Luo also felt that it was feasible. The resistance army was the original government and still had some prestige on the island. With their help, he would at least be able to stand on his feet in terms of morality. Even if they changed the government, Bai Lin Luo did not want the resistance army to continue to harass them. First, they needed to take over the government. Then, they needed stability, harmony, and recuperation. You can choose for yourself. Bai Lin Luo said, whether you participate or not, within 3 days, we will make the current government step down. The president believed that Bai Lin Luo was not bragging. He had the ability. As long as the boss behind him appeared, he could change the government by himself. That man was a little scary. I have no objections. The president had no reason to refuse, nor did he have the power to refuse. He needed Bai Lin Luo. Otherwise, they would forever be hated by everyone on this island. What about us? The leader of the Battle Wolves, Max, would ask questions when it was time to fight for his own interests. I'll give you command of a garrison, Bai Lin Luo said without any hesitation. This was also something that he and Liao Wushuang had agreed on before. You can expand your army to a maximum of 1 regiment. After that, you will have the right to command this army. I only need you to cooperate with me personally. At the same time, you must protect the safety of this island when needed. Sure, for a mercenary group, this was already a very good benefit. Max could see that Bai Lin Luo was sincerely discussing business with them. The job that Liao Qingshan introduced to him seemed to be quite good. Since none of us have any objections, let's sign this contract. Bai Lin Luo was well prepared. He placed the contract that he had already prepared on the table. The president and Max looked at it. There was basically no problem. Sign your names, and we will be comrades from now on. Bai Lin Luo continued to lead them. Everyone's interests are the same. After the president and Max signed the contract, Bai Lin Luo heaved a sigh of relief. No matter what, the first step was completed. At this time, the waiter who had been standing beside them and pouring water for them suddenly opened his lapel, pulled out 2 submachine guns, and aimed at Bai Lin Luo. The president was shocked. There was actually an undercover agent on his side. Eva had already pulled out a pistol in an instant and aimed at the opponent's head. But the person on the other side seemed to be well trained, and he was about to pull the trigger. At this time, Wang Xiaoyuan suddenly made her move. She directly threw out the round shield in her left hand, and the shield immediately cut off the opponent's head, causing blood to spurt out. The round shield was embedded in the wall at the back, and with blood, it was embedded there. Wang Xiaoyuan stood in front, blocking the blood for Bai Lin Luo. The other two were not so lucky, and their faces were splashed with blood. Mr. President, it seems that your resistance army is not a piece of iron. Bai Lin Luo's words were filled with ridicule. The president did not know what to say, so he asked the bodyguard in black to take out a handkerchief to wipe his face. This wave of strength slapping his face, it was too painful. It seems that the enemy is not easy to deal with. Max also wiped his face clean, and they actually obtained information about our gathering. They are somewhat powerful. My mistake, my mistake. The president's face was gloomy. His own territory was actually sneak attacked. If it wasn't for the strength of Bai Lin Luo's bodyguard, he would have already been killed. If my guess is correct, the government forces should have already surrounded this place. Bai Lin Luo turned the gears in his brain. Let's go out and take a look. Sure, let's go out and take a look. The president knew that since Bai Lin Luo dared to say this, he must be prepared. Max didn't object, and the three of them, accompanied by their subordinates, came to the glass factory and looked outside. Many military vehicles were blocked here, and the secretary of the government forces personally rushed over to command the battle here on behalf of the president. The secretary was a senior agent sent by the Philippines, specifically to assist the new president in ruling this island country. There were 2 oil and gas fields near this island country, which was the reason why the Philippines had been secretly causing trouble. Once the regime was stable, they could naturally develop these 2 oil and gas fields. At that time, the oil and gas would be directly transported to the Philippines and become their resource. The people inside, listen up. The secretary held a loudspeaker and began to persuade them to surrender. You have been surrounded by the Third Army. Surrender immediately, or you will be killed on the spot. Starting the political propaganda, Bai Lin Luo sat on a chair on the second floor and pointed at the secretary standing behind the explosion-proof shield. Shoot his loudspeaker. It's annoying to listen to. Max and the president both thought, what kind of material is this explosion-proof shield made of? Even a sniper rifle can't penetrate this shield. Does this Bai Lin Luo like to boast too much? Chapter 741. The secretary hid behind the explosion-proof shield with a smile on his face. Meanwhile, Lu Xinan from the Sagittarius constellation had already drawn her bow and aimed at the secretary. This explosion-proof shield uses 30mm bulletproof glass. Even my SVD can only leave a mark. Eva looked at the explosion-proof shield and muttered, this explosion-proof shield is provided by the Philippines. Otherwise, how could they get such good equipment? The president was a little angry. If only China could support him from behind. China was so rich. If they provided some planes and tanks, wouldn't they be able to defeat the other party? The president was daydreaming, while Lu Xinan had already drawn her bow and arrow. Her bow and arrow were condensed from the power of her ability, and there was a pair of small wings on it. The bow and arrow were pulled to a full moon, and the pair of small wings had already spread out, as though it was about to fly. Swoosh! The bow and arrow shot out and turned into a lightning bolt, heading straight for the secretary. The secretary sneered. He hid behind the explosion-proof shield, and it was foolproof. However, the bow and arrow drew a beautiful parabola and shot down from above, directly blasting the megaphone. Fuck! The secretary was frightened out of his wits. There was actually such a move as a projectile, and they were so accurate. Who were these people? This time, it's just a warning. Bai Lin Luo sat there. Although his voice was soft, there was a loudspeaker that amplified his voice. Too arrogant. The secretary was furious. He felt that his authority was being challenged. Blow up their base. The secretary came out on behalf of the president, and he had a mission. He must not let the resistance army go. The 6 armored vehicles behind set up their turrets and aimed at the glass factory. Clear the target. Bai Lin Luo gave the order, and Max signaled his men. 6 mercenaries carried RPGs at the same time and fired. 6 missiles flew out and blew up the 6 armored vehicles, causing them to flip over. The secretary was stunned. What kind of firepower was this? Since when did the resistance army have such powerful firepower? Could it be that someone was supporting them from behind? The secretary was shocked. Before he could understand what was going on, an elite team of 20 people attacked from behind. These 20 people's marksmanship was godly, and they could knock down a government soldier with a single shot. When the government troops were about to attack them, the 20 of them immediately spread out and found cover. "I'll kill you all!" A government soldier with an RPG aimed at the bunker. A bullet suddenly pierced through his head. The RPG shell shot straight into the sky and exploded like fireworks. Eva adjusted her aim and aimed at the next target. The two brothers Lu Chong and Lu Zhuang were also among them. As two valiant generals, the two of them shouldered heavy responsibilities. Although Sun Qingshan had taught them before in terms of spear techniques. However, both of them were Guan Wenbao's beloved disciples and preferred to fight. One of them was holding a tri-edge bayonet, while the other was holding a tactical dagger. Taking advantage of the chaos on the battlefield, they liked to sneak up behind others and stab them in the throat. The two of them were competing to see who could kill more people. The two of them tore apart the enemies with their bare hands and killed more than the others. Eva was a little shocked as she looked at the two red-eyed officers who had been killed. Isn't it crazy to use close combat to kill people on the battlefield? Most importantly, they killed more people than me, and I'm a sniper. Eva was a little unsatisfied. She continued to fire and madly swept the battlefield. Sagittarius Lu Xinan had not made a move since she shot the loudspeaker. She and Wang Xiaoyuan stood on the left and right, guarding Bai Lin Luo like door gods. Bai Lin Luo glanced at Lu Xiaohu. "Xiaohu, it's time for you to get some exercise." "Okay." Lu Xiaohu nodded. He was still young and needed to baptize his body and mind on the battlefield. Although he was still young, Lu Xiaohu's heart had grown a lot after experiencing some things. In the face of such a battlefield, he did not have the slightest fear. However, Bai Lin Luo still made him wear an extra bulletproof vest as an extra layer of insurance. Lu Xiaohu stood on the window of the glass factory. He bent his knees, and his whole body bounced out like a spring. Lu Xiaohu's body was light. In the air, he performed Li Fan's best move, the swallow triple sweep. He swam 2 rounds in the air and fell into the enemy's group. "Kill him." A group of government soldiers pointed their guns at Lu Xiaohu and pulled the trigger. Bullets rained down on Lu Xiaohu, but Lu Xiaohu stayed close to the ground and crouched down. Like a tiger coming out of the mountains, he instantly avoided the bullets and jumped out. Lu Xiaohu broke into the enemy group and stuck close to the government soldiers. In this way, the other government soldiers could not shoot him. Lu Xiaohu's hands were like tiger claws. He was almost close to the ground, constantly tearing the enemy's calves. He still showed mercy and tore the enemy's calves to pieces, but spared their lives. Even if Lu Xiaohu's martial arts were high, he was still young and could not bear to kill people. Seeing that Lu Xiaohu, a teenager, was able to kill 7 enemies, Eva was even more surprised. What the hell is this kid? Did he take the angel medicine? What kind of experts are there in Prodigy? Retreat! Quickly retreat! The secretary already knew how powerful they were. No wonder the commander of the 3 armies lost so badly last time. No, now I must gather all the combat power to defend the presidential palace. The secretary let the remaining half of the army protect him and began to flee toward the presidential palace. No need to chase. Bai Lin Luo waved his hand, signaling for everyone to stop. No hurry to kill them. I like to negotiate first. The smile on Bai Lin Luo's face was unfathomable. Our combat power is enough to wipe them out. Why do we need to negotiate with them? Max couldn't figure it out and directly asked. The war is your mercenary group's business. Bai Lin Luo explained, but the negotiation is my business. No matter what, this is a city, and there are many innocent people living here. If we continue to fight like this, they will definitely be hurt, so I hope we can resolve this peacefully. What is needed on the battlefield is not kindness. Max reminded Bai Lin Luo. Only those who are not capable enough will want to kill them all. Bai Lin Luo's words made Max speechless. Our leader is doing this for your own good. Eva stared at Bai Lin Luo, but Bai Lin Luo just smiled. Vice Leader Eva, I hope you pay attention to your attitude toward me. From now on, I am your superior. My superior is only Max. Eva pulled out a silenced pistol from her leg and pointed it at Bai Lin Luo. Bai Lin Luo showed no fear. Chapter 742. Eva. Max looked at Eva with his blue eyes, but he didn't stop her. Bai Lin Luo knew that Max was deliberately trying to embarrass him. This was a show of strength, waiting for him to make a fool of himself. Eva's muzzle was aimed at Bai Lin Luo, but Bai Lin Luo didn't show any fear. Wang Xiaoyuan picked up the shield, and Eva laughed. "Do you think such a small shield can stop my bullets?" Eva didn't put Wang Xiaoyuan's small round shield in her eyes at all, and couldn't help but mock. "Do you think you're Captain America?" Captain America relies on genes. Bai Lin Luo reminded Eva, "I rely on superpowers." While speaking, Lu Xinan had already pulled her bow and arrow. Eva didn't hesitate and immediately fired. She fired 5 shots in a row, hitting 5 places on Bai Lin Luo's body. It was impossible to block them with a small round shield. But Wang Xiaoyuan held the shield and moved to 5 places in an instant. In the midst of the sparks, the 5 bullets were all bounced off. At the same time, Lu Xinan's bow and arrow also shot out. The arrow hit Eva's pistol and nailed it on the wall next to her. Eva, on the other hand, pulled out another pistol from her pocket, and Lu Xinan's arrow was nailed to the ground at her feet. "Enough, Eva!" Max hurriedly stopped her. "Stop it. Officer Bai has a good temper, and he won't stoop to your level. If it were me, I would definitely punish you according to military law." Max was now using words to stop Bai Lin Luo, but Bai Lin Luo didn't buy it. Deputy Commander Eva has no respect for her superior and disregards military discipline. She will be put in prison for half a month. Bai Lin Luo was already considered to be lenient, so Max couldn't say anything more and could only accept his fate. Although Eva was still a little unconvinced, 2 security guards from Phnom had already stepped forward and handcuffed her hands. "Humph!" Eva struggled twice, but it was useless. "Officer Bai, I hope that a great person like you will forgive me." Watching Eva being pulled away, Max could not help but plead. At this time, the burly French Hercules bolt blocked the way of the 2 extraordinary security guards. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and picked them up. It was like picking up 2 chicks. "Stop, Usain Bolt." Usain Bolt was a fierce general in Wolf Warriors. At this moment, his action of protecting Eva put Max in a difficult position. Usain Bolt was too big. As the saying goes, a strong body does not lose out. The 2 security guards struggled for a long time, but could not escape Usain Bolt's grasp. Just then, Lu Xiao walked back. When he saw Usain Bolt bullying his own people, he immediately snorted and walked over to Usain Bolt. Bolt glanced at Lu Xiaohu and didn't take this young man seriously. He lifted his leg and kicked at Lu Xiaohu. Lu Xiaohu gently leaned to the side and avoided the strong man's kick. At the same time, his elbow smashed down and hit the burly man's calf. The burly man's calf cracked as his bones were fractured. Lu Xiaohu took the opportunity to take a step forward and use Black Tiger, climbing the mountain on the burly man who was falling towards him. After 3 moves, he pressed down on the burly man's head and slammed him to the ground. Usain Bolt fainted. Lu Xiaohu clapped his hands and glanced at the mercenaries who were ready to make a move. The remaining mercenaries of Wolf Warriors were dumbfounded. No one dared to step forward and touch the bad luck. Although the Wolf Warriors mercenaries were elites and very united, the current situation was already very awkward. Everyone knew that Eva was helping Max to give Bai Lin Luo a show of strength, so that the employer would understand the status of the Wolf Warriors mercenary corps. But now, not only did they not give a show of strength, they were even kicked by the horse. Max's expression was also very ugly, but he could not get angry. Bai Lin Luo's swift and decisive methods made him understand the gap between him and the other party. The Wolf Warriors mercenary corps had lost this game. From now on, he could only listen to Bai Lin Luo's commands. "Officer Bai, you won. I admire you." Max bowed to Bai Lin Luo. "Please forgive me, Officer Bai. All right, since we will be family in the future, I will not fuss over this small matter." Bai Lin Luo had a big stick in one hand and a sweet date in the other. He waved his hand, indicating that he let go of Eva. "In the future, we will have to face a common enemy. I hope that Captain Max can help me. The warriors who went to the battlefield today have worked hard. Later, each of you can go and collect 20,000 yuan as a reward for winning the first battle. Thank you, Officer Bai. Max imitated the Oriental style and cupped his hands at Bai Lin Luo. He imitated it quite well. One look, and it was obvious that he had studied it carefully. Susu. Bai Lin Luo turned his head and asked the beautiful Susu who was sitting at the side. What? Help me make a trip and contact the government army. Bai Lin Luo smiled. Tell them that we want to negotiate. Sure, let little tiger protect me. Susu agreed. On this side, Susu was basically Bai Lin Luo's left and right hand. Although he could summon some good guy card warriors, they did not have high IQ and could only carry out some simple orders. It was impossible to get them to negotiate. However, Susu was a little weak in terms of strength. She needed someone to protect her. Sure. Bai Lin Luo nodded and agreed to Susu's request. Eva, you go with Susu. Bai Lin Luo looked at Eva. It's up to you whether you can make up for your crime. Hurry up and thank the officer. Max hurriedly glared at Eva, and only then did Eva agree. Thank you, officer. Eva shouted somewhat unwillingly. Bai Lin Luo waved his hand. All right, go and rest for today. Tomorrow, we will negotiate with the government army. I think it won't be long before the government army comes knocking on our door. Bai Lin Luo gently stretched. After a day of torment, everyone should be tired. Let's all rest. Are we going to use this place as our base? Max asked. Yes, the glass factory has a good geographical environment. It's good to make a headquarters. When the negotiation is over, we will go to the presidential palace. Bai Lin Luo's face was full of confidence, as if he had a card up his sleeve. The president only felt that this young man was a little unfathomable, as if he had everything planned out. It's indeed not bad here. Bai Lin Luo took a deep breath. It's rare to breathe such comfortable air outside. When they were in China, Bai Lin Luo and the rest could only hide on the ship and rarely went outside. But on this island, the sky was high and the sea was wide, and the birds were free to fly. Moreover, there was a school on this island. Bai Lin Luo could go to school again. This was what made him the happiest. Chapter 743. To Bai Lin Luo, this place was like a paradise for mutants. Bai Lin Luo stayed in the office, one hand on the prophet's skull, communicating with him. His mind was filled with the knowledge provided by the prophet, allowing Bai Lin Luo to constantly enrich himself. The prophet's knowledge was huge, which was like nutrition, making Bai Lin Luo hungry and thirsty, swimming in this sea of knowledge. The prophet was like an artificial AI, following by his side, helping him to find the content he wanted. Every time Bai Lin Luo communicated with the prophet, he could not help but have some philosophical questions. For example, who am I, where do I come from, and where do I go? The three philosophical questions, even the prophet could not answer Bai Lin Luo. Over time, Bai Lin Luo did not delve into these questions. This is the origin of the world. The prophet brought Bai Lin Luo to observe the origin of the entire earth. Wait, Bai Lin Luo could not help but have another philosophical question. Since there is an origin, then does the human world have an end? Naturally. The prophet actually answered Bai Lin Luo. Do you want to take a look? There really is. I want to take a look. Bai Lin Luo was very curious. The prophet pulled him up and directly traveled through time, arriving in the future. Bai Lin Luo stood on a tall building, looking at the city full of green vegetation. This city, how long has it been since anyone lived in it? Bai Lin Luo was very surprised. This city had been abandoned for at least 10 years. A long time. This place is just the beginning. The prophet said, because of a man, the entire world started World War III. A power even more terrifying than nuclear weapons swept the entire world. A power even more terrifying than nuclear weapons? Bai Lin Luo became suspicious. Is there such a power? Of course there is. For example, the power of us mutants, when stimulated to a certain extent, can surpass nuclear weapons. For example, if the creator obtained the power of Evil Demon Island, he could cause the entire world's people to have a mental breakdown. If that's the case, then are there still people left in this world? Yes. The prophet nodded. The originator of everything, the creator of the apocalypse, he alone owns the entire world. After the prophet finished speaking, he pointed into the distance. Bailin Luo turned his head and saw a man in a black and white coat standing on a building in the distance. This man's appearance was very familiar. It was Li Fan, the Li Fan from 10 years later. He was sitting at the edge of the building. He had a beard on his face, and he looked like he had been through a lot. Li Fan, Bailin Luo exclaimed. At this time, Li Fan suddenly turned his head and looked at Bailin Luo, who was floating in midair. You came? While Li Fan was talking, he somehow arrived in front of Bailin Luo. A pair of golden flying lion wings appeared behind Li Fan, allowing him to float in midair. You are? Go back and stop me, Li Fan said and pointed a finger at Bailin Luo's forehead. Bailin Luo felt a sharp pain and suddenly opened his eyes and woke up. He was shocked to find that the prophet's skull in front of him had a crack on its forehead, and then it shattered into pieces. Oh no! Bailin Luo tried to pick up these pieces of bone, but as soon as he touched one of the bones, it turned into white ash and scattered everywhere. The prophet has completely disappeared. Bailin Luo actually felt a wave of fear. What is this situation? Just now in the world of the prophet's consciousness, he saw Li Fan. At that time, Li Fan was known as the destroyer of the world. Yet he actually saw him and even talked to him. Most importantly, the prophet has disappeared. Everything that had happened was too strange. Bailin Luo felt that his brain was a bit inadequate, as if his ability to think had stopped. Just as Bailin Luo was unable to organize his thoughts, a knock came from the door. Chief, the government's diplomat is here. Got it. Bailin Luo patted his face to wake himself up a little. The disappearance of the prophet made Bailin Luo somewhat panic. However, he must suppress this panic at the bottom of his heart. He is the chief of the Special Abilities Bureau and the person in charge of this island, so he must stay alert. Bailin Luo adjusted his mood and opened the door. Susu stood outside, dressed in plain clothes, but it could not hide her beauty. With such a beauty by his side, Bailin Luo's heart had never been tempted, because there has always been one person in his heart, and that is Liao Wushuang. Let's go. Anyway, I'm just a representative of Li Fan. Bailin Luo said, in terms of rank, it's not beneath me to meet this diplomat. By the way, call the president and ask him to meet this diplomat. Okay, Susu nodded. The diplomat sat in the temporary living room of the glass factory. There was only a long, dilapidated table and broken chairs. The diplomat coldly snorted in his heart. These people probably got resources from somewhere and are just a bit arrogant. The government has the support of the Philippines behind them. With the support of a big country, how could these small characters fight against them? The Philippines has provided them with 2 excellent troops, which will arrive in a few days. At that time, it will be the death of these people. He came here to delay for a few days. As long as some conditions of these resistance forces are met, they will agree with a smile. Some greedy guys hope that they know what satisfaction is. Soon, a boy who looks like a high school student walked down. Beside him was a beauty and a familiar guy. It is the person they have wanted for a long time, the fake president of the resistance forces. At that moment, the diplomat wanted to pull out his pistol and kill him. But he resisted this impulse. After all, in order to show his sincerity, he did not bring a gun. You are Bailin Luo? The diplomat stood up and extended his hand, but there was some arrogance in his expression. I'm a diplomat from the Luofu government. My name is Parker. Hello, I am Mr. Li Fan's representative. Bailin Luo smiled and calmly sat in front of the diplomat. Tell me, why are you here? Good, Officer Bai is really straightforward. The diplomat said, I know you have some strength, but our government has the support of a big country. I think if you continue to fight with us, you will only die. Really? Bailin Luo smiled. When did the Philippines become a big country? Behind the Philippines is the United States. Our weapons are the most advanced. Chapter 744. The diplomat's condescending attitude made not only Bailin Luo, But even the president was annoyed. These government troops were arrogant and preyed on the people. They should have been kicked out long ago. Is that so? Bai Linluo nodded. All right then. Since the two sides can't come to an agreement, you can go back. Bai Linluo waved his hand. Send the guest off. Sir, please go back. Susu walked forward and gestured for the diplomat to leave. The diplomat was a little surprised. He didn't get up but looked at Bai Linluo. Are you crazy? This is the only chance for you to survive. You don't cherish it? I think you're mistaken about one thing. Bai Linluo sat there calmly. This opportunity is reserved for all of you. What a joke. The diplomat finally stood up angrily. Looks like there's nothing to talk about. Tomorrow, the Filipino army will arrive. Then, it will be the death of you people. Filipino, how do you expect them to help you? Send out their air force? Bai Linluo laughed. As far as I know, the Filipino Air Force is a training aircraft, right? Don't care what it is. We still have money. We can hire the Storm Mercenary Group. You know the Storm Mercenary Group, the world's most powerful mercenary group. They can destroy you scum in an instant. All right, let's wait and see. Bai Linluo underestimated the arrogance of these government troops. Even at this point, after experiencing 2 crushing defeats, they still believed in their own combat power. If negotiations failed, then they could only use their fists. He couldn't cause trouble for Li Fan. He had to quickly solve the problem here. I look forward to a good night's sleep. When the diplomat left, he left behind some harsh words. I hope a bomb doesn't fall on your head while you sleep. Looks like they want to start a war. The president gave his opinion. Officer Bai, how do you plan to deal with it? My future garrison commander. What do you plan to do? Bai Linluo didn't answer and kicked the ball back to the president. With our armaments, it shouldn't be difficult to kill them in one go. The president said, while they are still waiting for foreign aid from the Philippines, we should attack overnight and completely recapture the presidential palace. Your method is very safe. It's not bad. Bai Linluo nodded. However, there is a very important loophole that you didn't take into account. Loophole? What loophole? Actually, to me, reclaiming this island is like playing a strategic game. Taking down the main base isn't a big deal. The key is that the enemy still has a sub-base that can provide combat power. Bai Linluo continued, if you want to fight, then beat them until they are completely convinced. I don't care about the foreign aid from the Philippines. I'll just wait for them to come over, and I'll kill them all in one fell swoop. With our combat power, can we do all this? The president was a little worried. Although Bai Linluo's combat power was not bad, he was still unable to contend against a large country. Just watch. Bai Linluo was full of confidence. We still have one more combatant. He'll be here soon. With him, there won't be a problem. With just one person? Yes, with just one person. Bai Linluo nodded. The president wondered what kind of person could give Bai Linluo such confidence. Bai Linluo turned to leave, but his face instantly sank. When night fell, Bai Linluo stood on the dock with only Wang Xiaoyuan and Lu Xiaohu beside him, looking at a boat that was slowly docking in the distance. The boat slowly docked, and a handsome young man in a green robe walked down with a strong warhorse in his hand. Brother Guan, you're here. Bai Linluo looked at the green-robed general. I've already prepared a banquet. We're just waiting to welcome you back. You're too polite. Guan Wenbao cupped his hands at Bai Linluo. I'm not very hungry. As soon as he finished speaking, his stomach growled. Fortunately, Guan Wenbao's face was a little red, so he didn't look shy. You're still so polite. Bai Linluo couldn't help but laugh. Okay, let's go. Bai Linluo specially prepared a truck for Guan Wenbao to park his Lisa. Okay, then I'll just have a bite. Guan Wenbao was a little embarrassed. He followed Bai Linluo into a pickup truck. This car, Guan Wenbao was a little dazed after getting in the car. He felt a little back in the past, when Li Fan was still a poor student. The conditions here are a little difficult, but it will get better. Bai Linluo guessed what Guan Wenbao was thinking. At least there's more freedom. It doesn't matter. Guan Wenbao said, when we first started, it was even more difficult than this. We didn't even have a car. Yeah, in the end, didn't we still develop quite well? Bai Linluo was very emotional. I really missed that time. Although we didn't have much money, everyone was still quite happy. Okay. Guan Wenbao leaned on the seat and closed his eyes to rest. Not long after he drove out, Guan Wenbao suddenly opened his eyes. What's wrong? Bai Lin Luo was smart and guessed that something must have happened. Guan Wenbao opened the window and looked outside. Someone is following us. Looks like it's the government. Bai Lin Luo glanced at the rearview mirror. They're probably thinking of ways to get rid of me. Okay, leave it to me. In the rearview mirror, two military off-road vehicles were driving over. The off-road vehicles were equipped with machine guns. Along with the dazzling headlights, the chain of bullets began to move. The bullets were like rain, flying toward Bai Lin Luo's car. Unknowingly, Guan Wenbao was standing on the roof of the pickup truck. He stretched out both of his hands, one hand holding the handle, the other hand pulling out a long blade. Combining them together, and with a swing, a crescent moon blade appeared. He looked at the two off-road vehicles and jumped to the ground. Kill him. One of the off-road vehicles increased its horsepower and charged toward Guan Wenbao. Guan Wenbao stood there, unmoved. Facing the incoming off-road vehicle, he only raised his crescent moon blade. Half-moon flash. The off-road vehicle was directly cut in half by Guan Wenbao's blade. The other off-road vehicle had already run far away. Guan Wenbao whistled, and the back door of the truck was smashed open. Lisa let out a long whistle, jumped out of the truck, and ran to Guan Wenbao's side. Guan Wenbao got on his horse, rode it, and chased after the off-road vehicle. The off-road vehicle was driving very fast, but Lisa didn't lose out at all. Her hooves kept galloping, as if she was riding on a cloud. Soon, she caught up to the off-road vehicle and ran side by side with it. The machine gunner on the off-road vehicle turned his machine gun and aimed at Guan Wenbao. Guan Wenbao swept his crescent moon blade and instantly cut the machine gun in half. Chapter 745. The machine gunner was stunned. Looking at the broken machine gun in his hand, he couldn't recover for a long time. What's going on? Guan Wenbao stabbed with his saber and pierced the off-road vehicle's tire. The off-road vehicle flipped over and smashed to the side of the road. After easily dealing with the two off-road vehicles, Lisa brought Guan Wenbao back to the pickup truck. Do you want to get in? Bai Lin Luo asked. No, it's not easy to find a place with few cars. Let Lisa run freely. In China, a horse doesn't have many places to gallop. Guan Wenbao could feel the excitement of the Fergana horse under him. He put away his saber and whipped the horse. Bai Lin Luo leaned back on the chair and could finally breathe a sigh of relief. With Guan Wenbao here, he can relax a lot. Old Guan is Li Fan's favorite general. With him here, the fighting strength of this side has the final guarantee. On the government side, the new president received the news from his subordinates and flew into a rage. Trash, a bunch of trash. The new president cursed. What's the point of raising you? You can't even kill one person. President, that Bai Lin Luo has an expert beside him. The secretary lowered his head, feeling a bit ashamed and helpless. Really powerful. Bullshit. They have experts, but we don't? The foreign aid from the Philippines is about to arrive. I heard that he's an expert with a stick and is internationally famous. The secretary quickly said, with his help, we can definitely subdue those Chinese martial artists. That's more like it. The new president said, I want them dead. The next morning, Bai Lin Luo brought his people all the way to the presidential palace. The presidential palace is already on standby. The new president personally stood in a command vehicle, looking at the rebels outside with a smile on his face. The diplomat stood next to him, waiting to see how the rebels would be wiped out. This is a big battle. Both sides have sufficient confidence in their own fighting strength. Bai Lin Luo was not so timid. He stood in front of the army, and Wang Xiaoyuan followed him. Actually, to Bai Lin Luo, he felt that this battle was more like a fight with a Beijing flavor. However, this was also in line with his goal. He would try his best not to let the battle escalate and affect the innocent civilians. Are you courting death? One of the cars had a large screen with the image of the new president. He laughed on the screen with a smug look on his face. This island belongs to me. It's ridiculous that you want to overthrow my regime. Mr. President, don't you think we look like children? Bai Lin Luo said through the loudspeaker. You're a real child. The new president chuckled. How about this? I heard that you're from China, so I know a little about your rules. We've invited an expert, and he's willing to fight with your expert. What do you think? Sure. Bai Lin Luo agreed. Old Guan, I'll have to trouble you. Okay, I like fighting in front of the army. Guan Wenbao dragged his Yinhua Dao and walked to the front of the battlefield. On the government side, a Filipino man, less than 1.6 meters tall, walked out. Although it was already late autumn in China, the weather on the island was still very hot. The man was bare-chested, but his muscles were strong like a boulder. This man was carrying 2 short sticks from the Philippines. He raised one of the sticks and pointed it at Guan Wenbao. Guan Wenbao was 1.88 meters tall, taller than the man by 2 heads. He looked down at him as if he was looking at a child. This is the stick master from the Philippines. The secretary also stood in the command vehicle and said to the new president, in the international fighting competition, this master won 2nd place. Not bad. With such an expert, I'm afraid the other side will have to admit defeat. The new president was very happy, waiting for this stick master to win 1st place. The stick master from the Philippines held 2 short sticks and waved them a few times. He looked extremely fierce. I'll kill you, he roared at Guan Wenbao, then leaped forward and swung the short stick in his hand at Guan Wenbao. Guan Wenbao did not even swing his sword. He raised his leg and kicked the stick master's chest. The stick master was kicked away and hit an armored vehicle behind him. He immediately fainted. This is the master you mentioned. An expert. The new president was furious. The secretary's face was also pale. He did not expect this master from the Philippines to be co-ed in one move. Kill that green-robed guy, the new president roared. All the guns were aimed at Guan Wenbao. But at this time, Lisa suddenly rushed out of the crowd and ran to Guan Wenbao. Guan Wenbao directly jumped on the horse. 1 man and 1 horse, carrying a crescent moon blade, directly rushed into the enemy and began to fight. Guan Wenbao's blade was covered with blade energy. With a casual swing, a blade energy shot out and tore the surrounding enemies into pieces. Attack! Bai Lin Luo hurriedly gave the order and also ordered Wang Xiaoyuan to protect Guan Wenbao. Although Guan Wenbao was good at attacking, he was not good at defense. Once he was focused on, he would quickly be turned into a sieve. He also had Lu Shinan to protect him, so he would not be in too much danger. Guan Wenbao's combat strength had already shocked the future garrison commander and the mercenaries of Wolf Warrior. They were not to be outdone. They mobilized their troops and began to wipe out the government's combat strength. The foreign aid provided by the Philippines was only 2 teams of soldiers. These countries that even their own national army was a joke could not provide much help at all. On the other hand, Bai Lin Luo's army was made up of elites. Even the resistance army was used to fighting guerrilla warfare. They always appeared sneakily and slipped away after being attacked by the enemy. The most dazzling ones were Guan Wenbao and Lu Xiaohu. The 2 of them were like gods of war, killing nonstop in the crowd. There were not many government troops to begin with, and there were less than 1,000 of them left. Very soon, most of them were killed, and the rest began to raise the white flag to surrender. They were mercenaries to begin with, and some of them were even citizens of the island who had been recruited by the army. Now that the government army was being crushed, they did not want to work for the government. With almost no casualties, the government army was completely defeated. Under the protection of some personal guards, the new president hid in the command vehicle with a pale face, preparing to escape from the battlefield. However, Bai Lin Luo waved his hand, and Lu Shinan shot an arrow. The arrow hit the car's tire, and the car immediately burst. It tilted to the side and crashed into a tree at the side. The car door was smashed, and the new president, secretary, and diplomat all fell out. They rolled on the ground in a sorry state. The mercenaries of Wolf Warrior immediately stepped forward, grabbed their arms, and pressed them to the ground. Chapter 746. In a dramatic, decisive battle, Bai Lin Luo and the rest did not suffer any losses and captured the presidential palace. Bai Lin Luo felt a bit bored because this mission was not difficult at all. It would be great if there were some experts in the government army. Whether it was a mutant expert or a martial fighter expert, it would at least increase the fun of the challenge. He himself was also a bit conflicted. Although it was not challenging, at least there were no casualties on his side. Bai Lin Luo felt very conflicted. It was probably because after the prophet disappeared, it made him feel a sense of emptiness. Brother Guan, thank you for this time. When sending off Guan Wenbao, Bai Lin Luo was a bit reluctant and personally came to the dock to send off Guan Wenbao. At this moment, this Luofu Island has completely changed owners and is now the Li family's name. When you go back, help me tell Li Fan that he will come and take a look when he has time. I will help him manage this island very well. I will. Guan Wenbao nodded and left Luofu Island with Lisa. Bai Lin Luo returned to the presidential palace, which is now his territory. The president of the resistance is standing in his office, waiting for him. Now he is dressed in a police uniform and is already the commander of the guards here. Sir, the commander of the guards bowed to Bai Lin Luo. Bai Lin Luo sat down, and a lot of officers came to the office one after another. These are the members of the new government. Bai Lin Luo's mission is to build this Luofu Island. From today onwards, this is no longer the Luofu Island. Bai Lin Luo said, from today onwards, this is called Li Family Island. May I ask, sir, to name this island after a person's surname? What kind of system are we going to follow? Max, who is now also a commander, immediately asked. Constitutional monarchy. Bai Lin Luo said directly. In the future, I'll be the Prime Minister of Li Family Island, and Mr. Li Fan will be the Emperor of Li Family Island. Constitutional monarchy. When a few people heard this, they were shocked to death. Will this work? Susu couldn't help but ask. Don't worry, this island is firmly under our control. Bai Lin Luo had already begun to build an intelligence network. And for the people on this island, they don't care who their leader is. They only care about who can give them the best life. With that, Bai Lin Luo gave Susu a look. Susu nodded. We have 2 oil and gas fields on the sea. They're not very large. We can set up a company to exploit them and then sell them to other countries. However, shouldn't these resources belong to Hua Xiao? Although Lu Xiaohu was young, he was quite intelligent. Hearing Bai Lin Luo and the others' discussion, he couldn't help but ask, won't we get beaten up if we casually mine? I wonder how many such small-scale oil and gas fields there are in China. Susu continued, if we want to develop, we must first use a wave. This island needs to survive without attracting the attention of the world. While most of it is still mainly aquatic products, Bai Lin Luo only left a large rear for Li Fan. We'll build on this side first. It won't be long before Lu Xinan buys the ownership of this island. At that time, it won't be a problem for us to develop however we want. I think it's feasible. Susu nodded. As long as we get the ownership of the island, everything will be fine. The garrison commander felt depressed. This group of people could even get the ownership of the island. This was a real legal regime on this kind of island. They were the local tyrants. Having just finished a war, the security of the island's residents must be very low. Bai Lin Luo continued. What we need now is to recuperate and strengthen the security of the island's residents. He glanced at the garrison commander. Do a good job of security. Don't let those lawbreakers do evil at this time. Well, don't worry. I've already sent 5 teams to specialize in daily security. The garrison commander nodded. We definitely won't let the island become chaotic. Okay, currently, the population of our island is 120,000. Bai Lin Luo said, it's about the same as a county. Work hard and strive to let the island's population exceed 1 million. The old government left behind some funds. We can use them to build this island. The garrison commander suggested. In the resistance army, I got to know someone from another country. He has some achievements in construction. Why don't we hire him as the Minister of Construction? There are still a lot of facilities that need to be built on the island. What do you think? Sure, I'll wait for him in the room. Let him come find me. Bai Lin Luo nodded. Right now is the time to hire people. He welcomed anyone with talent. After the meeting, Bai Lin Luo still stayed in the office, waiting for the Minister of Construction. After 2 hours, a middle-aged Oriental man who looked a little down and out, but was still well-dressed, walked in. "Hello, sir. My name is Honda Sakura." The other party spoke in Japanese-style English. "Island Nation?" Bai Linluo looked at Honda Sakura a few more times. He seemed to be a little poor, but his clothes were still very exquisite. He was wearing a blue and black suit, and the fabric was not from the island. It should be the work of a master tailor in Italy. "Yes, sir, you should be from China." Honda Sakura spoke in a gentlemanly manner. "I am the butler of a famous family in the island, but my family was later involved in politics and was destroyed. I had to wander around various countries and finally came to this beautiful island." "You have some experience in construction?" "Yes, I have some experience. I hope I can help you." Honda Sakura bowed. Bai Linluo thought for a moment, then asked, "Then what do you think the island needs the most right now?" "I heard that you were preparing to exploit the oil and gas fields, which is very good. However, what the island needs the most right now is some infrastructure. We need to expand the power plant and the water plant. With these, we can build the next facilities." "What are we going to build next?" "Residential buildings." Honda Sakura smiled. "Right now, the accommodation environment on the island is too poor. We need more apartment buildings to raise the standard of living of the residents and to attract more people to live here. Only with manpower can we develop other things." "Good. Your suggestion is not bad." Bai Linluo nodded. "Then you can come and try it out for a while." "Thank you, sir." Honda Sakura bowed, very solemnly. "I will definitely assist you well." Bai Linluo's heart calmed down a little. Everything on the island was developing in the direction he wanted, but he did not know how Li Fan was doing. Counting the days, it should be Murong Bo's birthday, right? Chapter 747. Murong Bo's birthday had indeed arrived. Li Fan was already worried about it. Early in the morning, Taiju had already prepared the car and gifts, and then woke up Li Fan from his sleep. "Son-in-law, it's time to get up." Looking at the bright red clothes on Taiju, Li Fan felt a little dizzy, and his sleepiness was gone. "Are you getting married?" "If you don't marry, how can I get married?" Taiju's infinite shyness made Li Fan's heart tremble. No matter how high his state of mind was, when facing Taiju, he was always at a disadvantage. This woman was poisonous. "If you do this, I will not marry for life." Li Fan couldn't help but tell the truth. "Son-in-law, you look so happy. It's so sad to say such words." Taiju said shyly, "I have long been ready to get married." "Well, you get ready first. I will get up and tidy up." Li Fan stood up, and Taiju followed him closely. "Son-in-law, let me help you wash up." "No need, no need. I could do it myself." Li Fan laughed dryly. "How can I do that? I have to serve the son-in-law well." Li Fan simply refused Taiju's kindness. He looked around and asked, "Where are the two ladies?" "Second miss has gone home early, and eldest miss is waiting in the car." "They are ready so early." Li Fan looked outside. The sky was still bright. Today is the master's birthday. This is a big event in Jianghu. There are a lot of things to do early in the morning. Taiju said, "There are a lot of rules in a big family. Can I not go?" Li Fan asked tentatively. Taiju took out a rope from his bosom. First Miss said that if the young master doesn't comply, she'll kidnap the young master and bring him over. Fuck, Li Fan was speechless. This Murong Ing was really something. Okay, I'll go. Li Fan had agreed to it a long time ago. Although he really didn't want to go, he had no choice but to go at this time. He went to the bathroom to wash up. When he came out, Taiju had already prepared the new clothes. This was a set of golden red arrow sleeves robe. The material was very exquisite, and one could tell at a glance that it was a high-grade product. After all, it was Murong's house. None of the things they used were cheap. When Li Fan put on the long robe with arrow sleeves, he looked more heroic. He straightened his clothes in front of the mirror and walked out of the room. When he came outside, Murong Ying's Bentley was already waiting there. "You got up too late." After getting in the car, the first thing he got was the cynicism of his fiancée. Today, Murong Ying was wearing a fiery red cheongsam with a black phoenix embroidered on it, looking very noble and elegant. It must be a very happy thing for such a beautiful chief of martial arts to be her fiancé. Only Li Fan was a little different. You got up too early. Li Fan leaned on the chair and began to close his eyes to rest. Finding that Li Fan didn't look at her all the time, Murong Ying was a little unhappy and pouted. This guy, don't I have charm? She gently flipped her hair, as if doubting her charm. This damn man? How was your harvest this time when you sneaked out? Murong Ying suddenly asked. Not bad. Li Fan felt that it was better to ask Murong Ying about some things. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked at his beautiful fiancée. Do you know Imperial Consort Zhou? Imperial Consort Zhou? When Murong Ying heard this name, she pondered for a moment. Are you talking about Imperial Consort Zhou of the Great Ming Dynasty? Zhou Wanshu? You know her? Li Fan was a little surprised. Of course I know. The legendary chief of the Heaven Alliance, Lu Jinshan, is Zhou Wanshu's descendant. Ah? Zhou Wanshu's son? How is that possible? Zhou Wanshu's sister is Empress Zhou. Empress Zhou once had a daughter who married a member of the Lu family during the chaos of war. And Lu Jinshan was born in this family. What the? Lu Jinshan and Zhou Wanshu had such a relationship? Speaking of which, the martial arts of the two of them seem to be somewhat similar. Li Fan pondered for a moment. If Lu Jinshan's 9 Buddha Sutra was reversed, it would be the star power technique. To a certain extent, the star power technique was no different from the Vairocana Heart Sutra. They both absorbed the opponent's power for one's own use. Speaking of which, that Murong Bo also seemed to be practicing this kind of martial art in private. What a so-called righteous sect. Right now, Li Fan had an indescribable disgust towards Murong Bo. This old bastard, he even had to celebrate his birthday for him. This was too fucked up. Speaking of which, this Zhou Wanshu was also a mysterious woman in history. Murong Villa, was well versed in the history of the pugilistic world. That's why I know such a secret. But how did you know? Murong Ying put on a doubtful expression. If I said that I met Imperial Consort Zhou, would you believe me? What did you say? Murong Ying leaned forward, almost pressing on Li Fan's body. Are you joking? No. Since you know Imperial Consort Zhou, then you should know her name, the undead evil Buddha, right? Impossible. Murong Ying absolutely did not believe. Although it's the undead evil Buddha, she has already been sealed in the dragon's cave. You know a lot. Li Fan looked at Murong Ying, who was close at hand. Can you explain? Murong family, used to be Lu Jinshan's protector. Murong Ying very frankly said, regarding the matter of Imperial Consort Zhou, Murong family, and Dong you should know the best. I entered the Great Ming Dynasty's treasure. Li Fan told Murong Ying, inadvertently revived Imperial Consort Zhou. Murong Ying's face turned pale and sat back on her seat. This time, you really caused a big disaster. This was the first time Li Fan saw such a panicked expression on his fiancé's face. You are the Wulin Alliance's leader. What are you afraid of? Li Fan said, Zhou Wanshu. Let me block her. You? Yes, in the tomb under the sea. I have already defeated her once. Li Fan's words made Murong Ying a little surprised. When I reach the level of a generation's master, I will no longer be afraid of that Zhou Wanshu. When she broke through the 8th level of martial arts and entered the level of a generation's master, Zhou Wanshu and Li Fan would no longer be in her eyes. The Zhou Wanshu you met is not at her peak. Murong Ying reminded Li Fan, when you meet her at her peak, you will know how terrible this witch is. Are you afraid? Me? Murong Ying thought for a moment and said, I just want to try between me and her, who is the number one in the world. Chapter 748. So that's the case. Li Fan looked at Murong Ying and asked, but why did you look so panicked just now? I was panicking not for me, but for the people in the martial arts world. Murong Ying gently held her chin and looked out of the window. The martial arts world is like duckweed now, and I don't know when it will collapse. As the leader of the martial arts world, isn't it normal for me to be worried about the affairs in the martial arts world? You care too much. You can't even take care of your own business. Li Fan couldn't help but remind her, think about Murong's family. You haven't even taken care of such a big mess yet. Daddy will naturally worry about the affairs of Murong's family. Murong Ing shrugged her shoulders. Even if I want to, I can't. What happens in the world of martial artists will be decided by the world of martial artists themselves. Li Fan said, everything in the world has its own rules, and it's the same for the martial arts world. What you said does make sense, but I'm still the leader of the martial arts world, not you. Li Fan couldn't refute Murong Ying's words and could only shrug his shoulders. You still have the cheek to criticize me? If you release Imperial Consort Joe, there will be a bloodbath in the martial arts world again. Anyway, I'm about to become a big villain in the martial arts world. Li Fan laughed and continued. If I release another villain, I'll make up a pair. You can still laugh. Of course. Li Fan nodded and continued. Speaking of which, the Heart Sutra of Mahavarokana is going to appear again. Do you feel nervous? What's there to be nervous about? It's just an evil technique. Murong Ing said in disdain. Li Wei's martial arts are evil too. I've never been afraid of him. I'll definitely surpass him within a year. Murong Ing was very domineering. Her words were not wrong at all. Li Fan believed her too. However, too many things could happen within a year. But you know that the Vairocana Heart Sutra and the Nine Buddha Sutra are somewhat similar. Of course, when Lu Jinchan was cultivating the Nine Buddha Sutra, it was said that he was inspired by Zhou Wanshu. I see. Li Fan felt that this chat was more meaningful. He didn't attend Murong's birthday party in vain. However, it seemed like these questions could be asked at home. There was no need for a birthday celebration at all. Apart from showing off, this old man's birthday celebration had no other meaning. This was what Li Fan thought. When we get to Murong's house, please try not to talk. Murong Ying knew Li Fan's temper, but she still reminded him, just take it as me asking you for a favor. Got it. I'm prepared. As Li Fan spoke, he stretched out his hand and poked his throat. Murong Ying blinked her eyes. Li Fan used the crane poking technique to poke her voice. About 4 hours later, Li Fan couldn't make a sound. This guy was really ruthless. In this way, he didn't have to bicker with Murong anymore. Murong Ying was actually a little touched. This was already not easy for Li Fan. Thank you. Murong Ying didn't say anything else. She would return this favor in the future. The Bentley drove very fast. Murong's house was in the suburbs of a city, a beautiful villa. It was also at this time that a city would become the center of the entire Jianghu. All the famous sects would send their representatives to celebrate Murong's birthday. The people from Sword Reliance should also come. Murong Ying glanced at Li Fan. You have to pay more attention to them when the time comes. Li Fan nodded and didn't make a sound. He couldn't make a sound now. He simply closed his eyes and began to adjust his breathing. He had just entered the 7th level, and his strength still needed to build a good foundation. Although Li Fan wanted to enter the 8th level as soon as possible, he heard that after he reached the 8th level, he would become very powerful. However, the realm couldn't be broken through overnight. Although he had forcefully broken through to the 8th level before, he had also gone berserk and lost his calm. This was the price of quickly improving his strength. To really practice martial arts well, he still had to practice step by step. The car stopped, and Murong's villa was next to it. Today, there were a lot of cars parked outside Murong's villa. It was really more lively than the new year. Li Fan followed Murong Ying out of the car. Immediately, there were a lot of Jianghu people pointing at them. Look, it's the chief of Wulin. So young and beautiful. If only she would like me, many young geniuses couldn't help but say. Stop dreaming. Don't you see who the person beside her is? Those people pointed at Li Fan. Oh, he looks very young. Fool! This is Murong Ying's fiancé, Little Tyrant Li Fan. Little Tyrant Li Fan? Ever since Murong Ying met Li Fan's name was already famous in Jianghu. Now that the title of Little Tyrant was spread out, it had weight. When they heard that Murong Ying's fiancé was Little Tyrant, many people had no choice but to back off. But there were still a lot of people who were itching to spar with Li Fan and defeat Li Fan to win Murong Ying's heart. Li Fan accompanied Murong Ying. Just as he was about to enter Murong's villa, a young genius from Tang's sect walked over. I heard that you defeated my junior brother. Why don't we take the opportunity to spar today? Before that Tang sect disciple could finish his words, Li Fan used the crane tapping technique and pressed on his acupuncture point. His blood vessels were blocked. That guy stood on the spot and couldn't move at all. He could only blink his eyes. I'm sorry. Today is my father's birthday. Li Fan doesn't accept any challenges from outsiders. Murong Ying said to the surrounding people. Although her voice wasn't loud, it was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Li Fan and Murong Ying walked into Murong's villa. It was also crowded inside. All kinds of people from the pugilistic world were walking back and forth, busy offering their blessings to Murong Bo. The two of them directly passed through the courtyard and walked into the courtyard until they arrived at the hall. Murong Bo was also wearing a festive red coat today. He sat on a wooden armchair and accepted the worship of the experts from the various sections. Seeing Li Fan and Murong Ying walk in, Murong Bo's face lit up, and he immediately waved at Murong Ying. Look, my baby daughter is here. Come and sit. According to the rules of the Murong family, Murong Ying had the position of assistant. Li Fan planned to find a place to sit, but Murong Bo came over and pulled Li Fan to sit beside her. Brother-in-law, there are many people today. You have to bear with it. Murong Bo could feel Li Fan's agitated mood. She gently patted Li Fan's hand and comforted him. Heroes, you are all here today to give me Murong Bo face. After waiting for his daughter to come, Murong Bo cleared his throat and everyone quietened down. Chapter 749. Everyone was looking at Murong Bo, waiting to hear what he had to say. Other than celebrating my birthday today, there's another important matter that I hope everyone can decide on. This isn't the place to talk. I've already set up a banquet. Everyone, please move to the banquet hall. We can talk while we eat. As he spoke, these people stood up and walked towards the Dragon Phoenix Hall. This Dragon Phoenix Hall was a place that Murong Villa used to entertain guests. It was very large. Li Fan estimated that it was about 500 square meters. There were at least 100 tables set up below. Many people had to have a side table. Murong Ying was still sitting in Murong Bo's assistant. It was obvious that her smile was also very forced. Murong AI pulled Li Fan and sat beside her. They were at a table not far from Murong Bo. This table was filled with people from Murong family. Li Fan was more or less familiar with many of them. For example, Murong Du back then. Murong Du was extremely angry when she saw Li Fan. She couldn't wait to trample on Li Fan. But now, Murong Du looked at Li Fan as if she was looking at a plague. She couldn't wait to stay as far away from Li Fan as possible. A few elders from Murong family sat on the other side. They looked at Li Fan with different expressions. Some were disdainful, some were angry, and some were disgusted. None of them liked Li Fan. They all had a negative attitude. Zhang Feng was also there. As Murong Bo's last disciple, he was sitting at a table far away. Only servants could sit. And on some tables below, Li Fan also saw some familiar faces. There seemed to be people from the 4 major alliances. The people from Sword Reliance were here as expected. They were led by Knight Rain Tower. He even winked at him. Fuck, this guy. Why do I feel like he's up to no good? The people from Huashan were there too. Chen Junhua was sitting there. As for the 5 Tigers sect disciple Ke Chuanzi, he was also sitting at a nearby table. He did not look at Murong Weibo. He probably only had eyes for his old enemy, Chen Junhua. Murong Bo chuckled. She held a glass of wine and smiled at the guests below. Everyone, there's something else I want to talk about. It's been bothering me for a long time. Today is a good opportunity. I hope that everyone can help me study it together. The people below were all muttering in their hearts. What exactly was the matter that had to be brought up at this time? Murong Bo, this old fellow, what was he selling in his gourd? While these people were guessing, Murong continued. This is about my daughter's marriage. Everyone was shocked. Wasn't Murong Ying's marriage already promised to Li Fan? Could it be that Murong Bo wanted to break the engagement? Murong Ying didn't know about this either. She was a bit shocked and looked at her father. My little daughter has also reached the age of marriage. Murongbo's words made everyone feel at ease. It turned out that he meant that Murong loved him. That was right. Murong was now a beautiful woman in her late 20s. According to the rules of the Jianghu, she should be betrothed to someone. There was no hurry to get married. At the very least, she had to find someone suitable. After all, Li Fan was just a commoner with no background. If Murong Mountain Villa wanted to continue to grow, it needed the help of a new family with a strong background. Marriage was the best way to do that. Everyone felt that there was nothing wrong with it. Only Murong loved it. She gently clenched her fists under the table. She was very unhappy. Li Fan felt the anger of Murong's love. He quietly held her little hand under the table. Murongbo looked at her brother-in-law with some grievance. My daughter's birthday is on the 3rd day of the 12th month of the year. Murongbo continued. At that time, I will set up a stage and set up 3 difficult questions. The heroes of the world. Whoever can solve these 3 questions will be my Murongbo's son-in-law. Many people were eager to try. They could not wait to participate in the competition. Murongbo was a little restless. Her heart was flustered. Li Fan gently held her hand, signaling her to be at ease. If Murongbo wanted to marry his sister-in-law, it would have to depend on whether he was willing or not. Murong Ying did not say anything. It seemed that she did not care about this kind of thing. Perhaps in her heart, her sister had already grown up. It was indeed time for her to find a suitable boyfriend. Villa Master Murong. At this time, Knight Rain Lu suddenly spoke. Murongbo looked at Knight Rain Lu. He did not know whether he was happy or annoyed with this man. Murongbo was very deep. He only raised his head and looked at Knight Rain Lu. He smiled but did not say anything. It seemed that he was waiting for Knight Rain Lu to continue. Villa Master Murongbo is in the prime of his life. His martial arts are matchless. I have long heard about it. Knight Rain Lu cupped his hands and said with a smile, and Villa Master Murongbo's eldest daughter, Murong Ying, is a heroine among women. She is the leader of the martial arts world. But Li Fan is from the grassroots. If he wants to climb up to the high branch of Murongbo, isn't it a bit inappropriate? Li Fan's expression turned cold. This night, Rain Lu really began to make his move. Whether it is appropriate or not, it will naturally be decided by my Murongbo. There is no need for young Hero Yi to worry about it. Murongbo spoke politely. It's not that I'm worried about it. Actually, I'm here to express my sincerity as the leaning sword's smiling breeze. Knight Rain Lu stood in front of the heroes and said loudly, I, Luo Shuwu, the leader of Sword Reliance, would like to marry young Hero Li. Knight Rain Lu, you are the commander of Sword Reliance. Murongbo did not say anything. He just gave the Great Elder a look. The Great Elder immediately stood up, slapped the table, and scolded. As the commander, you speak without propriety. How can I not propriety? How can you say this kind of thing in front of the heroes? What is your intention? The Great Elder asked sternly. This is a big matter. Why can't I say it in front of the heroes? Knight Rain Lu did not flinch. He said word by word, moreover, young Hero Li is not married yet. What I said, is it against human relations or against the rules? You quibble. I am not quibbling. I think that men and women should get married when they are grown up. Your Murongbo has never put young Hero Li in your eyes. But my Sword Reliance values him. Why can't you fight for it? Value? You are a commander. How can you say that? Then I can say it. At this moment, a woman pushed the door open and entered. She was dressed in a plain white robe and carried a sword on her back. Her beauty was comparable to that of Murong Ying. For a moment, everyone in the restaurant was stunned. Murong Ying secretly clenched the armrest of the chair and stared at Luo Shuowu in front of her. No one knew what was flashing in her eyes. Uncle, I am Luo Shuowu. I am here to wish you a happy birthday. There were a few faces behind Luo Shuowu. Li Fan was a little surprised. The 4 heavenly kings were all here. Jin Jiumao, who was always close to Luo Shuowu and disdained men. Zhan Xiaotian, who was dressed in golden armor and was full of heroic spirit. And Guo Mingming, who was silly and licked his fingers while walking. Chapter 750. The four heavenly kings had gathered together. Niece, what a grand show. Murong Bo stood up, still holding a glass of wine, and looked at the several people who were walking towards him, unmoved. Although he didn't seem to be moved, Li Fan knew that Murong Bo must be angry in his heart. He was not broad-minded. Luo Shiwuwu's move would definitely anger this old man. Murong Bo had the strength of the best in the world, but she did not have the broad-mindedness of the best in the world. Uncle, would you like to eat a drumstick? Guo Mingming took out a drumstick from his trousers and handed it to Murong Bo. Guo Mingming was absolutely kind, but Murong Bo did not think so. Yi Jian's people were here to humiliate her. Today is my birthday banquet. Niece, you brought people here to make trouble. You are not giving me face. How can that be? You are a leading figure in the martial arts world, and I am just a junior in the martial arts world and your niece. I still have to give you face. Luo Shiwu stood there, and she was also the focus of the audience. The White Queen Luo Shiwu and the leader of the martial arts world, Murong Ying. The two great beauties in the martial arts world gathered together, which really made the dragon and phoenix hall more glorious. Many men murmured in their hearts, who do you think is better? These two beauties are both superb and stunning. Since you are here to celebrate my birthday, find a place to sit down. Murong Bo held back her temper and was still looking for a way out for everyone. However, Yi Jian was not so easy to get rid of, especially Luo Shiwu. She had just been released from the ice, and she was always holding back her anger. She was ready to do something big. Come, bring up Yi Jian's birthday gift. Luo Shiwu clapped her hands, and four disciples of Yi Jian immediately came from behind. The four people carried a sedan chair with a turtle statue on it. This is the longevity turtle. I wish you a long life and longevity as long as heaven. Luo Shiwu said loudly. Everyone's expressions changed. This so-called longevity tortoise didn't sound good at all. Niece, I see that you've become much bolder and more temperamental now that you've become the leader of this alliance. Murong Bo finally couldn't hold it anymore. He frowned and slammed the small glass into the table in front of him. After the Heaven Alliance, there were some so-called alliance conferences. But everyone knows that I, Murong Bo, have never put these pesky league conferences in my eyes. But I, Murong, gave them some face, but they didn't give me face. Then don't blame me, Murong, for being heartless. Uncle, you always like to beat around the bush. Luo Shiwu was unmoved. She looked at the supreme martial artist in front of her and said, We are all people of Jianghu. If you have something to say, just say it. Why do you have to beat around the bush? The surrounding people were already whispering to each other. Were they going to start a fight? The relationship between Murong Bo and the four major alliances had always been very stiff. In the past, the four major alliances would give Murong some face. But today, it seemed that it had reached a critical point. Murong Bo didn't continue to say anything. Instead, he gave a look to the side. At this time, a handsome man in soft armor who had been sitting next to him stood up. Luo Shiwu, don't be too presumptuous. Everyone looked towards the direction of the voice. This man was an expert of the White Tiger Hall of the Central Plains. His name was Wei Jun. This Wei Jun was also a general-level expert of the White Tiger Hall. He was usually a man of few words, but today he took the initiative to speak. How strange! Everyone looked at Wei Jun, waiting to hear what he was going to say next. The enemy of the four major alliances is the devil cult. Wei Jun didn't disappoint and continued. Naturally, we should join forces to fight against the enemy together. And what kind of person is Villa Master Murong? He led the elites of Murong Villa to fight against the devil cult. We will naturally surround him and do our best. What a nice way to put it. Luo Shiwu nodded. To put it nicely, we're called thugs. To put it bluntly, we're called dogs. Luo Shiwu, you're too presumptuous. Wei Jun's expression turned stern. The true energy in his body erupted, and his hair stood on end. Could it be that you want the four major alliances to start a war? Start a war? Sure. Luo Shu didn't show any fear. I, the hero of Yi Jian, am unparalleled in the world. When have I ever been afraid of anyone? Your white tiger hall of the Central Plains has been the accomplice of a villain. You've been a dog for Murong Bo for so many years, and you've hidden so deeply. Now it's time to jump out and bite people for him. Luo Shuwu, what do you mean by that? Without waiting for Wei Jun to speak, Murong Bo was already somewhat angry. Are you declaring war on me? Murong Bo. Luo Shuwu's voice rose by an octave. She looked at the leading figure of the martial arts world opposite her with anger in her eyes. Last time you sent people to capture 2 of my disciples and use them to practice. Do you think I, Yi Jian, can't find out? It's time for us to settle this score now. Luo Shuwu's words caused a great uproar. Murong Bo caught people of Yi Jian to practice? For so many years, there were indeed some martial arts masters who inexplicably disappeared in Jianghu. But weren't they all killed by the people of the devil cult? Nonsense! Murong Bo roared angrily. Luo Shu, you've made a big fuss. How dare you pour such black water on me? What are your intentions? You should ask the devil cult if you, Yi Jian, have lost any masters. Why are you asking me, Murong Bo? Villa Master Murong, you know best in your heart whether you did it or not. As Luo Shu spoke, she glanced at Li Fan. Li Fan, young hero Li. Chapter 751. Under everyone's gaze, Li Fan stood in front of Murong Bo. Everyone stared at him, intending to see what this man was going to do. Although he was the little tyrant, with his current strength, it was still too early for him to fight against the supreme martial artist, Murong Bo. Li Fan, now that you have grown up, do you want to be the enemy of my Murong families? The great elder stared at Li Fan and shouted with a strong front. But Li Fan shook his head. Li Fan, get lost. Murong Bo also scolded, but Li Fan shook his head again. He just didn't speak. Everyone didn't know what he was going to do. Can you say something? The great elder looked at Li Fan angrily, but Li Fan didn't speak. Li Fan temporarily lost his voice. Unable to speak, just stood there. It seems that today, you are going to protect these people of leaning on the sword and laughing at the breeze. After living with him for so long, Murong Ing already understood some of Li Fan's thoughts. She asked on behalf of Li Fan. Li Fan nodded. Good. Murong Bo actually nodded. Dare to protect the enemy in front of me. You have some guts. Amir Li Fan also dares to be presumptuous in front of Villa Master Murong. A strong man stood up. I am the leader of Murong Villa's 5-Dragon Gate. Villa Master Murong, there is no need for you to beat him up. Let me do it. He was about 40 years old. His temples were bulging. At first glance, one could tell that he had achieved great success in inner force. Among the martial artists, although it was not the older one was, the higher the inner force was. But the older one was, the more profound the inner force was. This was normal. Li Fan didn't speak, just stood there motionlessly. At this time, the 5-Dragon sect leader got the tacit approval. He leaped up and slapped down at Li Fan. Li Fan stood there, unmoved. Just like that, he looked on helplessly as the 5-Dragon sect master jumped in front of him. But just as the gate master's palm was about to land on Li Fan's forehead, Li Fan suddenly stretched out a hand and grabbed the gate master's arm. He swung his arm and grabbed the sect master's arm. Borrowing his strength, he smashed the sect master to the ground. Bang! The sect leader was smashed until he was dizzy. Li Fan added another punch and knocked him out. Everyone was stunned. Although the sect master of the 5-Dragon Gates was not very famous in the Jianghu, his skills were still obvious to all. How could an expert at the peak of perfection be killed in an instant? Li Fan, this young junior, actually had such strength? Impossible. How did this person practice martial arts? His progress was too fast. Sure enough, his wings have hardened. Murong's eyes narrowed. Jiangfeng, it's been a year. Now is the time. Come on. Jiangfeng took a few steps forward steadily and stood in the middle of the banquet hall. facing Li Fan. At this time, Li Fan was no longer the young man from a year ago. He had grown quite a bit now. He was 179 meters tall, close to 1.8 meters. Zhang Feng was 181 meters tall, a little taller than Li Fan, but not by much. The two of them were almost at the same level. Zhang Feng looked at Li Fan and smiled. The original 1 year has passed, but it's been a long time. It's been almost 2 years. There was something indescribable in Zhang Feng's eyes. In these 2 years, you've grown a lot, and I'm not bad either. Today, we'll see who's better. Li Fan still didn't speak and just nodded his head. After that, he took a step back and made a gesture. He looked at Zhang Feng and made a pleased gesture. Zhang Feng put one hand behind his back, and the other pointed at Li Fan, extending 2 fingers. Acupoint hand. This was a martial art passed down in Zhang Feng's family. Now that it had been trained by Murong, it should have become a lot more powerful. Li Fan kicked the chair next to him. The chair rolled and flew, heading straight for Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng didn't retreat at all. He even took a step forward and poked the chair with 2 fingers. Bang! The chair was smashed. Zhang Feng looked at Li Fan in front of him with a little pride in his eyes. Don't look down on me. Use your full strength. Zhang Feng said. Otherwise, it would be boring, wouldn't it? Li Fan bounced his feet and executed the monkey steps, instantly appearing behind Zhang Feng. However, Zhang Feng didn't turn his head and directly poked with his right hand. Li Fan stretched out his palm and blocked. His palm contained true qi and was like steel, but it still hurt from Zhang Feng's 2 fingers. However, Zhang Feng found an opportunity and continued to poke with his fingers, aiming for Li Fan's vital points. Li Fan used the crane hand and kept slapping away Zhang Feng's fingers. Zhang Feng used his right hand, and Li Fan only used his right hand as well. His left hand was in his pocket. The two of them were like performing acrobatics, one attacking and the other defending, dazzling the crowd and making them unable to take it all in. Both of them were rarely seen young talents. With their strength, they would be the mainstays of a great sect in the pugilistic world. They might even be the future successors of the sect leader. However, these two people were born in the Murong family. It was truly enviable. Look at how many young experts were born in the Murong family. There was already a Murong Ying in the family, and there was still Zhang Feng and Li Fan outside. Murong Villa was the #1 family in the pugilistic world. There was definitely a reason why they could become the #1 family in the pugilistic world. If Murong Ying and the others grew up, perhaps in the pugilistic world, there would no longer be a match for Murong Villa. Terrifying. Fortunately, they had internal strife. It was probably because of this reason that many people were secretly supporting the Smiling Sword Breeze. Li Fan's palm was already faintly numb. At this time, he began to miss Subhoodie. If only this guy was here. This guy's invincible golden body was just right to deal with Zhang Feng's acupoint. Zhang Feng suddenly extended his other hand and attacked Li Fan, displaying the acupoint to the extreme. Zhang Feng's hand struck out again and again, as though he was tearing the air apart, creating a series of wind-breaking sounds. And Li Fan also took out his left hand from his pocket, displaying the crane's hand to the extreme, clashing with Zhang Feng's acupoint. The two people's martial arts were really powerful. The banquet hall was filled with violent gusts of wind. Many of the pugilistic world's juniors were mesmerized watching. If only they were half as powerful as them. The two people continued to attack and defend. For a moment, the two of them were unable to determine the winner. But at this time, Zhang Feng's eyes flashed a trace of complacency. Li Fan seemed to sense that something was wrong. At this time, Zhang Feng's leg kicked straight at Li Fan's lower abdomen. Shadowless kick. When Zhang Feng kicked, his shoulder did not move at all. It was impossible to see that he had any intention of kicking. This was the real shadowless kick. Li Fan's internal organs were injured. He took a step back and spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 752. He, seems like you were just SOSO for the past 2 years. Zhang Feng could not help but ridicule. Seems like I trained hard for 2 years in vain. It's too easy to win against you. With that, he continued to poke with his fingers, and at the same time, took the opportunity to kick. Li Fan's crane hand was already barely able to defend against the acupuncture point, and it was basically impossible to defend against Zhang Feng's kick. Especially when Zhang Feng's kicks were all shadowless kicks, and every time he kicked, Li Fan did not even have time to prepare. It was every martial artist's reflex to sense the opponent's habit of sparring. Even if Li Fan knew that he should go against his reflex, he could not do it. Li Fan suddenly retreated 3 steps, and then both of his hands were at his waist, and he pushed forward. Dragon Spitting Pearl. Li Fan's hands pushed out 2 chi pearls, and the 2 chi pearls intertwined in the air, forming an even stronger chi pearl, and went straight for Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng frowned. He did not expect Li Fan to have such a method. He poked the chi pearl with 2 fingers, and the pearl immediately exploded. Rumble! The strong pressure directly pushed Zhang Feng's body out, and in the blink of an eye, he fell more than 5 meters away. Zhang Feng was in a sorry state, and there was a lot of dust on his clothes. He frowned and looked at Li Fan, his eyes slightly complicated. It seems like I've underestimated you. Li Fan did not say anything. Why are you not saying anything? Are you looking down on me? Zhang Feng frowned. He seemed to be in a bad mood, but Li Fan still did not say anything. You brat! You have guts! Zhang Feng was angry. He suddenly leaped forward, and both of his hands poked towards Li Fan. His speed increased by a few notches. But Li Fan was already prepared. He crossed his arms, and the great war god popped out from his back, not giving Zhang Feng any chance to get close to him. The great war god's arms were very long, and with one slap, Zhang Feng was sent flying. Zhang Feng raised his head and frowned at the tall great war god. Everyone in the hall was dumbfounded. What is this thing? Could the release of true chi achieve such an effect? Could it be that it was turning nothingness into reality? No. Turning nothingness into reality should be a more realistic effect. For example, Murong Ying's cherry blossom sword aura was so real. Great War God, I've heard of him before. Zhang Feng had also inquired about Li Fan's actual situation. Knowing that you have such a kung fu, I have long been prepared. As Zhang Feng spoke, he took 2 steps back, out of the range of the war god's attack. At the same time, his body began to circulate true chi, then exploded, and then condensed again, forming a coat that covered his body, gathering chi in essence. Li Fan's eyes lit up. This Zhang Feng actually learned Long Tang's moves. Interesting. In an instant, Zhang Feng's strength had increased immeasurably. He pointed 2 fingers at Li Fan from a distance. Li Fan almost subconsciously tilted his forehead. Something brushed past his forehead and hit the pillar behind him. Boom! A hole was directly hit on the pillar. Light shone through the hole and shone on Li Fan's face. After the gathering chi and essence, this guy's acupuncture point hand could even hit people through the air. Awesome! Li Fan could not help but praise Zhang Feng. He was indeed a respectable opponent. Watch this match. Luo Shiwu reminded the 4 heavenly kings. It will benefit you a lot. In fact, there was no need for her to remind them. Every martial arts expert was watching this kind of battle without blinking. This kind of battle was too rare to see. After the gathering chi and essence, Zhang Feng became even more powerful. The acupuncture point hand he used could no longer be seen. It was as fast as lightning. However, Li Fan also retracted the Great War God and turned it into a golden armor. Wearing it on his body, he was actually able to forcibly block Zhang Feng's attack. However, a finger mark appeared on his true chi armor. It would not be long before it was broken. I have seen your golden armor. It won't be long before it will be broken. Zhang Feng was full of confidence. He did not know that the battle between the two had already dazzled the eyes of the surrounding people. Only Murong Bo did not put these 2 people's martial arts in his eyes. After all, he was the supreme martial artist. The martial arts of these 2 people were not worth mentioning to him. Jiang Feng. Directly use your unique skill. Murombo ordered. Yes, master. Jiang Feng responded, and then the brilliance on his body became a bit brighter. The original silver-white brilliance suddenly turned black, and Jiang Feng's pair of pupils also turned blood red. One with the heart and demon. Li Fan understood that this was Jiang Feng's real strength. One of the three great martial arts talents, one with the heart and demon. Humph! Jiang Feng looked at Li Fan and suddenly snorted. A terrible murderous aura burst out from his body, and his figure disappeared instantly. The hair on Li Fan's back trembled. He almost subconsciously lay down on the ground. Bang! A burst of air exploded above Li Fan's head. Jiang Feng's 2 fingers missed, and the air in front of him directly exploded. If these 2 fingers were to poke Li Fan's body, his body would probably be poked with 2 huge bloody holes. Li Fan supported himself with both hands on the ground, and with his spirit-toed sore, he jumped to the ceiling. His feet sucked on the ceiling, and he hung upside down. He looked at Jiang Feng solemnly. Jiang Feng's ability was indeed strong. He could fuse with his own heart demon, and there were no side effects. Unlike Li Fan, every time he activated his heart demon, he would be dominated by the heart demon, unable to control his body and consciousness. Jiang Feng's expression was cold, but his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He suddenly looked at Li Fan and poked the top of his head with 2 fingers. Li Fan took a step back, and 2 transparent holes appeared in the ceiling. There were many cracks around the holes, spreading more than 10 meters away. The current Jiang Feng could kill with a flick of his finger. Li Fan dodged Jiang Feng's attack, but suddenly landed in front of him. In that instant, Li Fan activated his strongest state, Divine Dragon General. At this moment, Jiang Feng's strength was enough for him to take out all his trump cards. In an instant, Li Fan's entire aura changed. The surrounding people looked at him as if they were looking at a god that descended from the sky. Even Murombo could not help but be somewhat moved at this moment. Jiang Feng also sensed a trace of danger, and both hands poked towards Li Fan together. But Li Fan's movements were even faster. His palm struck Jiang Feng's chin from the bottom up. Rising Dragon Strike. This move directly sent Jiang Feng flying high up, directly smashing the ceiling above his head, and then falling to the ground. Li Fan instantly followed up, and a kick landed on Jiang Feng's head. Jiang Feng's body spun, smashing 3 pillars, and finally smashing into a distant wall. Smoke and dust rose. Li Fan slowly retracted his right leg and stood there, looking at Jiang Feng, who was embedded in the wall. He threw the sword, and the black sword turned into a black light, instantly piercing through the opponent's sword chi. Dang! Jiang Feng swung his sword again, and the long sword blocked Li Fan's sword. Li Fan stretched out his hand, and the black sword that was blocked flew back into Li Fan's hand. Li Fan threw the long sword in front of him and separated his hands. 7 golden sword images were separated. Yo, 7-star sword. Seeing Li Fan's sword technique, Night Rain Tower's eyes lit up. However, Li Fan's 7-star sword looked even more domineering, as if it contained his special chi. Jiang Feng threw out more sword chi, and again, destroyed Li Fan's sword images. But when the smoke dispersed, a black sword was floating above his head. Jiang Feng was shocked. Even if he did not feel pain, he still felt fear. He knew this move, God slaying. If Li Fan's lightning struck him, he would really be happy. Jiang Feng wanted to dodge, but a lightning bolt had already struck down from the sword. Jiang Feng did not dare to be negligent. He held the sword, which contained his scarlet chi, and collided with Li Fan's golden lightning bolt. Bang! The entire banquet hall trembled. The power of the two quickly spread out, forming a ripple, and in the blink of an eye, it spread extremely far. All the martial artists present had no choice but to use their chi to protect their bodies. and the walls of the hall were completely smashed. Fortunately, the ceiling had already been smashed. Otherwise, at this moment, everyone would have been crushed to the ground by the collapsed ceiling. Li Fan and Zhang Feng separated far away, and the two of them stood on a street lamp in the courtyard. Li Fan stood there, and the extraordinary sword floated in front of him. Zhang Feng stepped on the street lamp, holding Murong Bo's sword with both hands, and stared at Li Fan. The two of them did not hide their strength, and both of them used their true strength to compete. Zhang Feng was shocked at Li Fan's growth. In just 2 short years, he, a martial arts layman, could actually grow to such a high level. As for Li Fan, he was also very surprised. Was Murong Bo so powerful? He had just beaten Zhang Feng up, but after receiving his devilish training, he actually improved so much. The two of them looked at each other, waiting for the other to make the first move, and then looking for the other's flaws. Sometimes the first to make a move would not win. Whoever made the first move would reveal a flaw. Li Fan was not stupid. He was waiting for an opportunity. Everyone present was a martial artist, so they naturally knew the rules of the martial arts competition. Therefore, they did not say a word, and waited for the two of them to decide who was better. Time was also slipping away minute by minute, and because Li Fan and Zhang Feng were in their strongest state, their true qi was also rapidly being consumed. If this went on, it would not only be a competition of patience, but also internal strength. Zhang Feng's heart and demon unity seemed to consume more energy. He finally could not hold it in any longer and directly carried his sword. His entire body turned into a sword light and swept towards Li Fan. This move, Li Fan felt as if he had seen it before. Li Fan hurriedly jumped up and into the air, and the street lamp under him had already been cut into 2 in an instant. Zhang Feng landed on the ground, glanced at Li Fan, and then with a bounce of his body, turned into a black and red sword light, and flew straight towards Li Fan in the air. Swallow 3 splashes. Li Fan's body shifted in the air, and narrowly avoided Zhang Feng's sword light. However, the front of Li Fan's clothes was cut open. This sword light was very powerful. Li Fan used Thousand Caddy Fall and landed back on the ground. He turned his head to look for Zhang Feng above him. But at this moment, Zhang Feng ran to God knows where and disappeared without a trace, as if he was hiding in the dark, waiting to sneak attack Li Fan. Li Fan filled his surroundings with true qi, forming a 3-meter radius around him. This way, he could feel the surrounding true qi and could temporarily act as a radar. But Zhang Feng's speed was too fast. Only then did Li Fan's true qi feel the fluctuation. He dodged in a sorry state, but the golden armor on his left arm had already cracked, and a stream of blood spurted out. Li Fan sealed the blood vessels on his arm, endured the pain, and frowned, continuing to look for traces of Zhang Feng. Chapter 754. Zhang Feng even hid his aura. It was as if his entire person had disappeared. Li Fan frowned. This Zhang Feng is playing a good trick. Murong Villa is extremely big. If he is hiding there, it will be very difficult for me to find him. This time, Li Fan will lose for sure. Zhang Xiaodian sighed. This Zhang Feng is too good at hiding. He even hid his aura. As long as he continuously attacks Li Fan from the dark, Li Fan will definitely lose. Yeah, this Zhang Feng is so powerful. He actually knows heart and demon unity. Zhang Feng has one of the 3 great martial arts talents. It is really enviable. Jin Jima is also the same. She is watching the battle with a little jealousy. If only she also has a martial arts talent. For example, Li Fan knows abnormality bone changing. This talent is really too important for a martial artist who practices form and will martial arts. Li Fan's true qi domain is not very effective. He can only barely avoid a few attacks. In a short while, he has already been attacked 3 to 4 times. If it was not for Li Fan's strong healing ability, he would have already been lying on the ground. This battle is undoubtedly a bitter one for Li Fan. Knight Rain Tower put his hands in his sleeves and sighed. He will lose for sure. Jean Xiaodian sighed. In a martial arts competition, it is a big taboo to not be able to find the opponent. An Li Fan suddenly raised his extraordinary sword. 7 enlarged sword images suddenly appeared in the air, quickly falling down, nailing around him, forming a circle. They encircled Li Fan. These 7 sword images, each as tall as Li Fan, are like 7 doors. Li Fan stood in the middle, holding the extraordinary sword, eyes closed, like an old monk in meditation. A sword light suddenly appeared behind him, seemingly wanting to pass through the 2 sword images. But the 2 swords suddenly trembled. Li Fan turned around and slashed. Clang! The extraordinary sword struck the sword light, and Jiang Feng's figure was sent flying. And at this moment, 7 sword shadows suddenly leaped out, chasing after Jiang Feng's figure, slashing his body in succession. Bang, bang, bang. 7 wounds appeared on Jiang Feng's body in a row. His body flashed again, and he disappeared in front of Li Fan. He actually blocked it. Tsugumi was shocked. It was just luck. Knight Rain Tower saw it clearly. Just now, Li Fan used the 7-star sword chi to sense the existence of the opponent's sword chi. However, Jiang Feng will learn his lesson after this. A few more sword lights, and Li Fan's body won't be able to take it. However, Jean Xiaodian wasn't optimistic about Li Fan. He's about to lose. In the end, he lacks the guidance of a famous teacher and lacks battle experience. There's no way he can fight against Murong Bo's disciple. As soon as his words fell, Li Fan suddenly used Cloud Ladder Leap and directly jumped into the sky, jumping 100 meters high in the sky. He hung upside down in midair, looking down at the multitude of living beings below. Jiang Feng's sword light needed impact force, and with such a distance, Jiang Feng couldn't use his sword light. If he used his movement technique to rise into the sky, he wouldn't be able to use his sword light attack. Li Fan used the force of rising into the sky and quietly looked down. At this moment, Li Fan's eyes contained powerful qi, like the eyes of an eagle. Everyone's qi was clearly visible. Different people had different colors. Li Fan quickly found the owner of the scarlet qi, Jiang Feng. This guy was actually hiding in the crowd. No wonder he couldn't find him. Li Fan glared at them. His aura was astonishing, as if he was driving them away. If it was someone else being so fierce, no one would care. But now it was Li Fan. With Li Fan's words, the people sitting there immediately began to flee, afraid that they would be affected by the battle between the 2. There were still some who didn't believe in Li Fan's strength, and they curled their lips. What's the use of jumping so high, pretending that you can fly? That's right, a pain in the ass, man. We'll leave just because he said something? Ignore him. Those people didn't have any intention of leaving, but Li Fan didn't stand on ceremony either. In midair, he directly pressed down with his palm. Dragon King Seal. Boom! A huge dragon claw mark appeared on the ground. Jiang Feng was pressed to the ground, half kneeling there, unable to stand up. As for those guests who didn't leave obediently, they were also pressed to the ground, unable to move, and blood began to burst out from their bodies. The strength of the 7th level, Dragon Divine General, Dragon King Seal. The huge palm wind pressed everyone there unconscious, except for Jiang Feng. He half knelt there, carrying heavy pressure on his body. But he withstood the crimson true energy and stood up bit by bit. Li Fan was falling towards the ground, and the other party also raised his head, looking at Li Fan above his head. Li Fan's palm pressure had completely dissipated. Jiang Feng lifted Murong Bo's long sword, and once again turned into a crimson sword light, facing Li Fan above his head, and directly charged up. This time, Li Fan was unmoved. He suddenly stretched out both hands, and both hands clamped down fiercely. Catching a naked blade with bare hands, Li Fan was luring Jiang Feng to face it head-on. This way, with his eyesight, he could catch Jiang Feng's sword in an instant. When Jiang Feng saw that his sword had been caught, he was taken aback. Jiang Feng frowned, clearly very shocked. His peerless devil sword was actually blocked and empty-handed. How was that possible? Zhang Feng thought that he had seen wrongly, but in reality, he was still weaker than Li Fan. With his sword taken, Zhang Feng had no way to use sword light for a moment. But Li Fan opened his mouth and instantly roared. Fierce tiger roar. The roar was like thunder, tearing Zhang Feng's eardrums, and Zhang Feng screamed in pain. And Li Fan grabbed the treasured sword with both hands, and then kicked Zhang Feng's face. Bang! Zhang Feng was kicked back to the ground heavily, and there were traces of electricity on his body, all caused by Li Fan's rushing thunder kick. And while Li Fan was still in midair, as he fell, the great god of war popped out from behind him. Li Fan's body did not move, but the great god of war's arms opened up, and on top of his hands, there was a huge amount of true energy. 7 brilliance, absolute kill, great wisdom king. The great god of war's hands suddenly clapped together, and then heavily clapped together. Rumble. True energy crazily poured out and hit Zhang Feng's body. A deep pit was formed on the ground, and Li Fan followed the force of the fall and fell into the pit. Zhang Feng was already buried in the dust, and he looked very miserable. This time, it was Zhang Feng who had lost. Li Fan pulled Zhang Feng out, and the state of heart and demon unification had already dissipated. He casually threw Zhang Feng to the side, and Zhang Feng slowly climbed up, and his mouth spat out blood. Li Fan looked at Murong in front of him, and the corner of his mouth slightly raised. Chapter 755. Murong Bo's face was now very ugly. He thought that Zhang Feng would be able to defeat Li Fan in seconds after his training and enlightenment. But now, he actually lost to this annoying son-in-law of his. Murong Bo was a very protective person. If it was someone from Murong's family, even if it was just a collateral relative, Murong Bo was not afraid that he would become stronger. Because they were all from the same family, the strength of the family was naturally the strength of the family. But Li Fan, Zhang Feng, they were all not the same. Zhang Feng was his disciple. Even if he was the last disciple, his surname was not Murong. As for Li Fan, it was even worse. There was a simple saying that a son-in-law was equivalent to half a son. That was all nonsense. Son-in-laws and whatnot. They were all people who came to snatch his daughter and family property. Murong Ying was his precious daughter. If she wanted to marry, it should be a noble young master with a matching family background. How could it be Li Fan, this kind of grassroots kid? He thought that Zhang Feng and Li Fan would kill each other, but Zhang Feng was also a last disciple. He couldn't lose his face, so he had to let him win. In the end, this time, Zhang Feng actually lost his face again and lost to Li Fan. Shameful. It was really too shameful. How could such a guy be his disciple? If it wasn't for the fact that he had the talent of heart and demon unity, he would have long expelled him from the sect. Worthy of being the person that my daughter fancied. You do have some strength. As Murong Bo said, he suddenly stretched out his hand and pushed out a palm. Li Fan felt a strong wind pressure on his body. Li Fan's body was instantly hit and flew out more than 10 meters away before he could stabilize his footsteps. He raised his head and looked at Murong Bo opposite him with some shock. This old fellow had such a powerful force with just one palm strike. This was his full strength? No, he might still be hiding his strength. As an expert of a generation, his strength must be unfathomable. If Imperial concubine Zhou had used her full strength at that time, she might have already killed him. These Grandmaster-level old fellows were indeed abnormal. His fiancée was already one step away from becoming a Grandmaster. Now he was really a little envious of her. If he had started practicing martial arts from the age of 4 or 5, things might have been different. Although Li Fan was repelled, he did not admit defeat. In a martial arts competition, whoever admitted defeat first would be the first to lose half the battle. No matter how strong you are, remember, this is Murong's house. Murong reminded Li Fan, everything is based on the will of the Murong family. I'll ask you one last time, are you still going to protect Yi Jian's people? Li Fan felt his throat tremble. He could finally speak. Father-in-law. Li Fan cupped his hands and said, "Originally, there were some things that I shouldn't say on your birthday. But now it seems like I have to say it. I have a deep relationship with Yi Jian, so this time, I must protect them." "Yeah, a deep relationship with Yi Jian? Have you forgotten that you are the son-in-law of my Morong family? So what if I am the son-in-law of the Morong family? Don't I have my own freedom?" Li Fan smiled and said calmly, "Don't forget in the battle with Jiang Feng I won. You should at least give me face and let Yi Jian's friends leave safely, right?" "Young hero Li, don't worry about us," Luo Shuwu said heroically. "This time, we came to seek justice from Villa Master Morong. If we don't get justice, we won't go back." "Did you hear that?" Morong sneered. "You help them, but they might not necessarily give you face. Li Fan, you have been standing with outsiders and going against my Morong family. I want to ask, do you still have any place for my daughter in your heart?" "I and Morong Ing naturally treat each other with respect," Li Fan said without hesitation, "but it doesn't mean that I am Morong family's slave." As soon as Li Fan said this, the surrounding guests began to suck in a breath of cold air. His words meant that he had divided his position with Morong family. "Fine." Morong looked at Li Fan coldly. "Li Fan, you think that you are amazing because you have an extraordinary escort agency and are called the Little Tyrant, right? Let me tell you, everything you have is built on the foundation of Morong family. Without Morong family, you are nothing. I, Li Fan, have a clear conscience." Li Fan didn't have the slightest fear. He stood there and said in a dignified manner, "Father-in-law, you said that you have never caught Yi Jian's men. Then I also want to ask you, what kind of martial art did you catch those devil cult disciples to practice?" Morong frowned deeply and looked at Li Fan. "Li Fan, what nonsense are you talking about?" "I, Li Fan, never lie," Li Fan asked bluntly, "but I saw it with my own eyes that day. Morong, you controlled the White Tiger Hall of the Central Plains and caught those devil cult disciples for you. What kind of martial art did you practice?" "Well, it seems that you're on the same side as Yi Jian." Morong bow shot back at Li Fan. "What benefits did Yi Jian give you to make you live off him while secretly helping an outsider? It seems that you have been bribed by Luo Shuowu's beauty. You are indeed a lecher. My daughter has been deceived by you until now. It is time for her to wake up." Morong Ing stood there. It was hard for her to speak, and her expression was very ugly. "However, although you are careful, my Morong family is a gentleman. Li Fan, I will ask you one last time. This is your last chance." Morong glared at Li Fan and asked coldly, "Are you on Yi Jian's side or on my Morong family's side?" "If it is Morong family's side, then I will treat your words and actions as nonsense after drinking too much and won't lower myself to your level. You are still my Morong family's son-in-law. From now on, you will be a proper person and won't pursue this matter with you. But if you stand on Yi Jian's side, then from now on, you are no longer my Morong family's son-in-law, but my Morong family's enemy." Morong Ing instantly became nervous. She understood Li Fan's temper the best. This sentence was enough to know how Li Fan should answer. Everyone looked at Li Fan as if they were waiting for this youth's answer. Was he obedient or was he a proud youth? Morong's villa or Yi Jian? He had to choose one. If he was a smart person, he would definitely choose Morong's villa. After all, this was the #1 villa in the martial arts world. It was many times stronger than Yi Jian, who had the weakest wealth and manpower among the 4 major alliances. Only a fool would choose Yi Jian. Luo Shuowu also looked at Li Fan. For the first time, she felt nervous. She was also waiting for Li Fan's answer. What would he choose? If he was smart, he would definitely not choose Yi Jian. The hope was really very slim. For a moment, everyone's eyes were on Li Fan. Chapter 756. Li Fan's choice was very important, and it would have a great impact on his future life. If he chose the wrong step, it would be very difficult for him to walk in the future. On one side was friendship, and on the other side was the future. How should Li Fan choose? Murong Ying and Luo Shuwu both looked at Li Fan nervously. They were even more nervous than Li Fan. Murong Ying was afraid that Li Fan would choose the E-sword, and Luo Shuwu tried her best to make Li Fan join the E-sword. She even did not hesitate to fall out with Murong Villa, just to wait for this moment. At this time, Li Fan became the focus of the whole audience. Murong Ying stood on the side of Murong Villa, and Luo Shuwu stood on the side of the E-sword. The two women were cousins, and both of them had a prideful character. But at this moment, almost all of them stretched out their hands to Li Fan. Li Fan looked around. At this moment, it was impossible to say that he was not in a dilemma. But Li Fan's final choice was unchanged. He took 2 steps to the right and stood next to Luo Shuwu. Murong Ying's eyes were a little empty. Murong Love was a little presumptuous and directly shouted, "Brother-in-law, how can you choose them?" She was a little anxious. "Then I want to go with you." What kind of personality did Murong Love have? She usually pretended to be a good girl, but at this moment, she could not hide it. But Murong Ying reached out and held Murong Love. Murong Love was just about to shout when Murong Ying hit the back of her neck and made her faint temporarily. This was Murong Villa. No matter what they did, they could not lose the face of the Murong family. This was the responsibility that they should bear as members of the Murong family. This was especially true for Murong Ying, who was the future head of Murong Manor. She could not afford to reveal her feelings here. Children talk about friendship, while adults talk about responsibility. That was the difference. "I knew you would choose them." Murong transmitted her voice to Li Fan. Li Fan frowned and looked at the head of Murong Villa. From today onwards, Murong Villa, Yijian, and Phenomenal Escort Agency will be sworn enemies. Murong Weibo announced. Whoever is close to Fifan Escort Agency and Yijian will be the enemy of Murong Villa. Murong Bo was the supreme of the pugilistic world, while Murong Ying was the chief of the pugilistic world. His one sentence was equivalent to giving the order to kill Li Fan and Luo Shuwu. From now on, Li Fan would probably be isolated by the people of Jianghu. Whoosh! Many golden robe guards walked out from both sides. These were the guards of the Murong family. Each of them pulled out a long sword in their hands and pointed it at Li Fan and the others. They were the target of public criticism. "Thank you for choosing me." Luo Shu also pulled out her long sword. There was a trace of cold light on the sword. "From today onwards, I will be your strongest support. Don't misunderstand." Li Fan didn't turn his head. He looked at the people of Murong Villa in front of him. "I didn't choose you. I just hate Murong Bo. Brother Li, didn't you choose here because you like me? Chief Luo?" Night Rain Tower stood beside Li Fan and asked him with his hands still in his sleeves. "Luo Shuwu needs me just for Yijian," Li Fan said lightly. "And Murong Ying needs me because she likes me." Although he felt guilty to Murong Ying, he couldn't always stand under Murong Bo, listen to his orders, and look up to his breath. Li Fan knew that he had to take this step sooner or later. To establish his own sect, he had to cut off all relations with Murong Bo. Sometimes, he had to make a choice. Yijian's people actually caused trouble on this occasion. They are really unworthy of being the model of Jianghu. Wei Jun led a group of elites of the White Tiger Hall of the Central Plains out of the crowd. Behind him were 8 guard-level soldiers of the White Tiger Hall of the Central Plains. Each of them was wearing silver armor and holding a big spear. They all operated the Divine Heaven Soldier Kung Fu and adjusted their strength to the strongest, ready to fight at any moment. The 4 heavenly kings of Yijian were also ready, as if they were facing a great enemy. Murong Bo sneered. "Luo Shu, do you think you can escape from my villa with just a few of you? Of course I don't dare to underestimate this villa." Luo Shuwu said frankly. "So, I prepared other means." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand and pointed to the river in the distance. "Villa Master Murong, look over there." For the sake of geomancy and beauty, the vast Song River was not far from Murong Villa. At this moment, there was an antique dragon boat on the Song River with 3 sails. One of the sails was written with the name of the dragon boat, the 1,000-mile whistle. The 1,000-mile whistle, 15 dragonhead cannons have been aimed at Murong Villa. Luo Xiuwu crossed her arms and was full of confidence. As long as I give the order, Murong Villa will turn into a sea of fire. Uncle, I know you are powerful, but you can't save all the people in your villa alone. Luo Xiuwu's words were already a threat. In order to take all the people away safely, he couldn't be a coward when it was time to be domineering. Luo Xiuwu waved her sword, and her voice became louder. Friends of Aegean, let's go. Luo Xiuwu was ready to leave with her people, while Murong stood there with a cold face. If he let them leave safely, he would lose a lot of face. But the 1,000-mile whistle was indeed there, and the 15 dragonhead cannons on it were not alarmist talk. Luo Xiuwu, you're going to do it to the extreme. Murong gnashed his teeth. Villa Master Murong, you are the one who is going to do it to the extreme. Luo Xiuwu didn't give in. We just want to survive. Chapter 757. Who are you? Murong Bo glares at the person in front of him with anger in his eyes. Murong Bo, do you still remember me? The person smiles as he looks at Murong Bo. Murong Bo takes a step back and frowns as he looks at the man in front of him. Wang Jian, it's you? This person is none other than the commander of the embroidered uniform guard, Wang Jian. In the past, Wang Jian would wear the standard black uniform of the embroidered uniform guard when he goes out. But today is different. Wang Jian is wearing a bright red coat. His entire face is smiling, and his eyes are like crescent moons. He repels Murong Bo with one move and even winks at him. Rumor has it that in order to master the highest realm of the small phaseless divine technique, Wang Jian cut off his future path. Murong Bo looks at this commander of the embroidered uniform guard and sneers. Seeing you today, it is indeed so. Murong Bo, you are mocking me, Wang Jian charmingly says. But you are not much better than me. Nonsense. Murong Bo roars. If you talk nonsense again, I will break your throat. Yo, you are angry. Wang Jian gently claps his hands. You are quite charming when you are angry, but your style isn't his cup of tea. Commander Wang, I think you have completely turned into a woman. The people of Jianghu are watching. Murong Bo sneers. Why don't you let me send you to reincarnate? If I can reincarnate into a female body, it is not bad. Wang Jian stretches out his hand and takes out 3 silver needles from his sleeve. However, in this life, there are still some things that I have not finished, so I can temporarily die. Wang Jian's voice falls, and he throws out the 3 silver needles. Like 3 electric lights, they instantly fly towards Murong Bo. Murong Bo does not dare to be negligent. This Wang Jian is a Grandmaster level character. He stretches out 2 fingers and uses Murong's sword art to continuously deflect the silver needles. Dang. The 3 silver needles were constantly bounced off, but Wangshan's movements were unpredictable. Like a drifting ghost, he instantly appeared in front of Murong Bo. Wang Zong raised his right palm, and with a powerful true qi in his palm, he slapped down towards Murong's face. Murong snorted coldly and retaliated with a palm strike. The palms of the 2 men touched each other. Boom! The ground suffered a powerful impact, and a shockwave spread out. It was as if the entire world was trembling. Many people in the surroundings were sent flying by this force, unable to control themselves at all. Li Fan barely managed to stabilize his body as he looked at the 2 old monsters in surprise. At this time, Wang Jian's face was white and clean, as if he had become much younger. As for Murong, her whole body was filled with a vicious aura. The true qi in her body surged, and her clothes began to tremble. The true qi of the 2 people clashed intensely. The power collided, the stones on the ground flew upside down, and then shattered around the 2 people. The strength of these 2 people is too terrifying. Let's take this opportunity to leave. Luo Xiaowu pulled Li Fan, wanting to bring him out. What the hell? Li Fan was also a little surprised. Why did this old pervert Wang Jian come? And it seemed like he saved me. Little brother Li Fan, why are you still not leaving? Wang Jian did not even turn his head as he said to Li Fan, who was behind him. Li Fan was especially embarrassed, not knowing if he should leave or stay. Let's go. Night Rain Tower pulled Li Fan. It's not good to stay here for long. Brother Li, wait. Just as Li Fan was about to leave, Chen Junhua carried his heavy sword and walked towards Li Fan. Brother Chen, are you here to send me off? Li Fan asked. No. Chen Junhua shook his head. Then are you here to stop me? Brother Li misunderstood. Chen Junhua cupped his hands at Li Fan. This time, I am under the order of the new sect leader to go down the mountain to gain experience. After thinking about it, I decided to join Brother Li's fiefin escort agency. It should be helpful for my cultivation. My escort agency isn't a bad situation now. Don't you see? Li Fan smiled bitterly. Murongbo has declared me as an enemy. From now on, I'm afraid the people of fiefin escort agency will be despised by others. You and I are both martial arts addicts. Martial arts is the most important. Why should we care about what outsiders think? Well said. Li Fan nodded. If that's the case, I'll be wasting my time if I say anything more. From now on, you're my brother. As long as I have food to eat, I will not let you go hungry. We will share blessings and misfortunes together. Okay. Chen Junhua nodded and silently followed behind Li Fan, walking out of Murong Villa. Where do you think you're going? Just when Murongbo and Wang Jian were at each other's throats, Central Plains White Tiger Halls, people rushed over and blocked Li Fan's group. Xiaodian Mao Mao, Luo Xiuwu ordered, and two of her capable subordinates immediately rushed out. Zhang Xiaoyan's palm technique was exquisite, while Jin Jiumao's mantis fist was full of killing intent. The Central Plains White Tiger Hall also had a few experts, and these experts surrounded the two people. Night Rain Tower and Guomingming protected Luo Xiuwu, not letting anything happen to their leader. The 1,000-mile swoop was by the river, and as long as they boarded the ship, they could leave smoothly. None of you can escape today. Wei Jun held his bright silver spear and leaped forward. He circulated the divine heaven weapon cultivation technique, and his entire being was like a god of war as he smashed the spear down. Before Li Fan could make a move, Chen Junhua had already stepped forward. He picked up the heavy sword and brandished it above his head in a very ordinary manner. Clang! When Wei Jun touched the heavy sword, he felt a powerful force and was directly sent flying. It really came fast and left fast. Chen Junhua carried the heavy sword and followed beside Li Fan silently, making people dizzy. He was the #1 elite disciple of Mount Hua, and now he was actually following Li Fan? What a joke! What kind of charm did Li Fan have to conquer such a young talent? Seeing that Li Fan and the others were about to leave, Murongbo's heart was burning with a ball of fire. Murong-ing, go and stop them. While Murongbo was fighting with Wang Jian, he ordered his eldest daughter. Murong-ing was the leader of the Wuling Alliance, and she was highly skilled in martial arts. If she were to make a move, the situation of the battlefield would be settled. However, she thought for a long time and stood there hesitating for a long time. This is related to Murong's family. Don't be sentimental. Murongbo reminded her daughter. Murong-ing sighed. She slowly walked forward, surrounded by pink cherry blossoms. At first glance, people would think that Murong-ing was a classical beauty who walked out of a painting. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Murong-ing. She was like a magnet, sucking away all the gazes. Although it's not my intention, you can't leave this door today. Chapter 758. Murong-ing points with her finger, and a row of cherry blossoms flies out and floats in front of everyone. These beautiful cherry blossoms are just like Murong-ing, beautiful, beautiful, but full of lethality. Murong-ing. Li Fan's true chi has also recovered a bit. He stands between the crowd and Murong Ying as he looks at his fiancée. Do you want to fight? Murong Ying does not speak and just swings her hand. More and more cherry blossoms begin to flutter, turning from illusion to reality, filled with killing intent. I understand this is my choice, Li Fan continues to say. I will not hold back. This is an insult to you. As he speaks, he places his fists in front of him, waiting for the battle with Murong Ying. He has already activated the Divine Dragon General State, constantly activating his Dantian and squeezing out the true qi in his body. The heartbeat in his body starts to accelerate. Normally, when Li Fan cultivates inner force, his heartbeat is very slow. When it comes to exertion, his heartbeat will accelerate like an accelerating motor. At this moment, Li Fan's heartbeat is very fast. The blood in his body seems to be boiling. Although he is mentally tired, along with the acceleration of his heartbeat, his body becomes abnormally active. Promise me? Murong Ying solemnly looks at Li Fan and pleads. What? Survive. After Murong Ying finishes speaking, countless pink cherry blossom petals are already twining around Li Fan's body. These petals start to spin, and in the blink of an eye, engulf Li Fan's body. Luo Shiwu, who stands at the side, is shocked. She did not expect that Murong Ying would actually make a move on her fiancé. But all martial arts are sacred. Li Fan did not ask for help, so she cannot interfere in the battle between the two. Luo Shiwu is very anxious, wishing that she can replace Li Fan to fight. Frost appears on the ground beside her. Luo Shiwu practices the 9-heaven mystic ice divine technique, and because of this, she almost went berserk. Leave it to Brother Li, Knight Rain Tower advised. This is a battle between the two of them. As he spoke, Li Fan's body erupted with a powerful burst of true qi, and the great god of war shot out. His hands tore apart the cherry blossoms around him, and he floated above Li Fan's head, glaring at Murong Ying. Li Fan did not say much. Today, the two of them were destined to fight. Murong Ying was stronger than him, but he would not back down. As the fiancé of the Martial Arts Alliance Master, the chief escort of Phenomenal Escort Agency, and the little overlord of Jianghu, he had to show the fighting spirit that a martial artist should have. The great war god put his hands on his waist, and a ball of qi bead appeared in his palm, slowly growing bigger. Dragon Spitting Pearl. Li Fan threw a dragon spitting pearl at Murong Ying. The golden qi bead flew towards Murong Ying, but Murong Ying flicked her finger, and a cherry blossom pierced through the qi bead. The golden radiance exploded, and Li Fan's qi bead was destroyed just like that. However, Li Fan's attack was just a feint, and his body followed the qi bead and flew over. The great war god returned to Li Fan's body and turned into a suit of golden armor. Li Fan slapped his palm towards Murong Ying, and Murong Ying thrust out 2 fingers. For some reason, even though they did not touch, Li Fan felt that Murong Ying's 2 fingers carried a powerful sword qi, and his palm was unable to block it. Li Fan forcefully retracted his palm and slapped with his left palm. Murong Ying thrust out 2 more fingers, and Li Fan took another step back. This Murong Ying's sword finger was much more advanced than Jiang Feng's acupuncture point technique. These 2 fingers were comparable to a peerless, treasured sword, and they were indestructible. At this moment, Murong Ying was like a hedgehog covered with needles, and Li Fan did not know where to start. This woman was too powerful. Since she gave birth to you, how could she give birth to Liang? However, Li Fan did not have the intention to retreat. Even if it was an iron plate, he could kick it 100 or 1,000 times, and it would still have a hole. Murong Ying used defense as offense, and while blocking Li Fan's attack, she was also constantly looking for weaknesses in Li Fan's body. Stop playing, kill him. Murong Ying's voice flew over. Murong Ying's body trembled slightly, while Wang Jian smiled. Manor Lord Murong, it seems that you still have some strength left. You can actually speak freely. Wang Jian, how long has it been since you became a grandmaster? How can you be mentioned in the same breath as me? Murong had already raised her treasured sword, and with a wide swing, sword chi flew everywhere. Wang Jin, on the other hand, was circulating the little phaseless divine art. He pulled out a few weapons from the surrounding guests and contended with Murong's treasured sword. This was the power of the little phaseless divine art. Not only could it use true chi to control other people's weapons, it could also use the time to push Murong's treasured sword askew. The control method was exquisite. The little phaseless divine art is too amazing for words. Manor Lord Murong, you have to enjoy it. As Wang Jin spoke, he raised both his hands, and all the treasured swords on the guests' bodies flew out of their sheaths and floated above his head. There were about 200 to 300 swords, and although it was not comparable to the power of the 1,000 swords that Li Fan activated the Huashan sword mount, Li Fan's control over the 1,000 swords was also very simple, and he could only launch a rain of swords. Wang Jin was different. The 200 to 300 treasured swords seemed to have a life of their own, and constantly moved above his head, waiting to attack Murong's sword. Li Fan was a little envious. This Wang Jin's control over true chi was as good as his own hands and feet. Although Li Fan was not bad, he could not be compared to Wang Jin. At this moment, Murong Ying couldn't be bothered with Wang Jin anymore. The cherry blossom sword chi covered the sky and earth and rushed towards Li Fan. Li Fan threw out the extraordinary sword, and with true chi control on it, he pointed it directly. The extraordinary sword was pointed at Murong Ying and faced the large patch of cherry blossoms. True chi filled the treasured sword, causing it to emit a dazzling golden light, and it began to split the cherry blossoms in front of it. But the cherry blossom sword chi increased, and it was like a rain of cherry blossoms. It rushed towards Li Fan. All of Li Fan's true chi was gathered on a treasured sword. Li Fan suddenly had a very mysterious feeling. This extraordinary sword seemed to be responding to his power, and it trembled slightly. Li Fan's hands suddenly separated, and 7 sword shadows were separated by him. 7-star sword. But in the state of the Dragon Divine General, this power was not limited to just this. Li Fan felt that his sword technique was evolving. The 7-star sword is meaningless. Murong Ying looked at the 7 sword shadows above Li Fan's head and shook her head. But Li Fan's hands continued to separate, and each of the 7 swords split into 7. This time, there were 7 by 7, 49 swords. Li Fan divided them again, and each sword was divided into 7 swords. 343. But this was not the main point. Li Fan separated again, and directly split into more than 2,000 sword shadows. More than 2,000 was Li Fan's current limit. His true chi was only enough to create so many sword shadows. Looking at the densely packed treasured swords in the sky, Murong Ying couldn't help but frown. This is... Chapter 759. Even if there are so many sword shadows, they are ultimately just a drizzle. Murong Ying didn't mind at all and didn't take these sword shadows to heart. Myriad swords become one. Li Fan held onto the extraordinary sword with both hands and roared. The sword shadows that filled the sky suddenly flew over and fused into the extraordinary sword in Li Fan's hand. This black sword immediately emitted a dazzling golden light, as though it was filled with energy. Even Murong Ying couldn't help but frown when she saw the brilliance on the sword. What kind of technique was this? Myriad swords become one? With a wave of her hand, a large number of cherry blossoms continued to sweep towards Li Fan. However, Li Fan stood there without making any movements. The treasured sword seemed to have come to life as it swam around Li Fan, constantly mincing the surrounding cherry blossoms. Even Murong Ying couldn't help but be surprised at this moment. Was it possible for the treasured sword to have its own consciousness? The only explanation was that Li Fan's myriad swords become one allowed a large amount of true chi to fill the treasured sword. With his control of true chi, he only needed a simple thought to make his true chi move freely with the treasured sword. In order to verify her thoughts, Murong Ying released even more cherry blossoms and attacked Li Fan. Li Fan stood there as the black gold extraordinary sword blocked in front of him, releasing a dazzling golden light. This golden light was formed by true qi. When it struck the cherry blossoms, it dispersed the cherry blossoms. With this treasured sword, Li Fan seemed to have a guardian. He walked towards Murong Ying step by step as the extraordinary sword constantly attacked the cherry blossoms in front of him. Originally, the cherry blossoms were rushing over like an avalanche, but they were all stopped by this treasured sword. Li Fan walked step by step until he was in front of Murong Ying and looked at her face to face. "You are getting stronger," Murong Ying said. "Although I know that we will have a battle a long time ago, it shouldn't be at this time." After Murong Ying finished speaking, the cherry blossoms rolled up and formed the shape of a cherry blossom sword. Under Murong Ying's command, the cherry blossom sword intertwined with Li Fan's sword, colliding with each other. At the same time, she arrived in front of Li Fan. She didn't rely on her sword qi, but only used her hands to attack Li Fan. Her two fingers were like a sword. Murong Ying's right hand pointed at Li Fan's eyes. Li Fan extended his hand, and a sword shadow flew out from the extraordinary sword and landed in his hand. This sword shadow was completely formed by vital energy. In Li Fan's hands, it was very sturdy. He raised his sword and blocked Murong Ying's sword finger. Clang! A crack appeared on the vital energy sword. It was almost pierced through by Murong Ying's sword finger. So powerful, Luo Shu couldn't help but be surprised when she saw this. If it were him, how many moves would he be able to take from Murong Ying? "Murong Ying has been holding back," Night Rain Tower said in a low voice. If she had used her full strength, Li Fan wouldn't have been able to take it with his current physical strength. Luo Shu didn't say anything, but she sighed in her heart. She was also very diligent in her cultivation, but Murong Ying's talent was something that she couldn't be envious of. Sometimes the world was very unfair. Li Fan held a sword shadow. He extended his hand, and another sword shadow fell into Li Fan's hand. He brandished two sword shadows and attacked Murong Ying at a rapid pace. Murong Ying only had two hands, so she was evenly matched with Li Fan. However, the great god of war popped out from behind Li Fan. He also held two sword shadows, and the four swords attacked crazily, creating a whirlwind-like rhythm. This was the first time that Li Fan maintained a state of synchronized attack with the great god of war. The more he fought, the more excited he became. Murong Ying didn't make a sound. Her two hands faced Li Fan's four swords, but she didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. Clang! 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 Sparks constantly appeared, and the two of them were evenly matched. In order to fight with Li Fan, Murong Ying kept her strength at around 7 to 8 dragons. After Li Fan fought for a long time, Murong Ying suddenly placed her palm on his chest. Fire cloud palm. Bam! Flames burst out from Li Fan's back. It was as if there was a flame burning in his body, and then it suddenly exploded. Li Fan's body flew out and slid over 10 meters away. Two sword shadows pierced into the ground and fell to the ground. He half knelt there and spat out a mouthful of blood. A large black hole was burned on the back of his clothes, and there was black smoke coming out from his back. This move had injured Li Fan's internal organs. Fire Cloud Palm. Luo Shuwu was shocked. What kind of martial art is this? Such a powerful palm. Night Rain Tower couldn't help but be surprised. Murong Ying compressed her true qi, and the friction with the air caused an explosion. Unbelievable. This move sounded simple, but it was really too difficult to execute. Cough. Li Fan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his vision turned black. Murong Ying's figure also swayed in front of him. At this moment, the true qi on Murong Ying's body seemed to be burning, and those pink cherry blossoms once again danced with a little spark. Li Fan, you still have a long way to go in martial arts. Murong Ying had already stepped into the level of a generation's grandmaster. Her hair danced along with her true qi, and her whole body was filled with heroic spirit. Li Fan, today is the day you die. Wei Jun saw the opportunity, and with a feint, he broke away from Chen Junhua's attack, and then thrusted his spear towards Li Fan. Humph! Murong Ying's eyes sharpened, and the cherry blossoms on her back flew up and instantly pierced through Wei Jun's body, causing him to be drenched in blood and fly out. Wei Jun fell to the ground, half dead. "Only I can kill him," Murong Ying said coldly. "No one else is allowed to touch a finger of him." Soft-hearted, Murong Bo was not happy. He suddenly shouted loudly. His voice was like thunder, causing Wang Zheng to take a step back. At the same time, Murong Bo leaped and somersaulted in the air, and his palm was covered in flames in mid-air. With just a glance, Murong Bo had already learned his daughter's fire cloud palm. Sure enough, he is the supreme martial artist. His palm brought out a flame in the air, and like a missile, it directly slapped towards Li Fan's forehead. Li Fan's vision was still black, and he only saw a red shadow jumping towards him. Li Fan half knelt on the ground, his fist pressed on the ground, and his fist emitted a black light. Then, the black true chi wrapped around Li Fan's body. He suddenly raised his head and punched Murong Bo's palm. Bang! Li Fan's body was sent flying, but at the same time, Murong Bo's body was also sent flying. Li Fan's body spun a few times and finally smashed a house, bringing up black smoke. Murong Bo fell to the ground and awkwardly retreated a few steps. Finally, he left a deep footprint on the ground and then stabilized his body. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.